of us were from about 19 African countries, and when they talk, it's like they're talking about my country, Nigeria. So for me, I know that this is something that is very, very common as well. And even looking at, literature and all of that. So we have issues around, access. Like rabies now is a disease that is 100% preventable, whether through vaccination of dogs, because 99% of all rabies cases are dog mediated, right? You can, and even when someone is exposed, they can get the post-exposure prophylaxis to prevent themselves. But you still see that access to this is a major, major issue. So we've also seen an increase in the frequency of outbreak. Like, you can count within the last 20 years, we've had SARS-CoV-2, SARS or the SARS-CoV. You now have SARS-CoV-2. You have Mpox. You have Ebola. You have Lassa fever. You have COVID-19, and so on and so forth. So climate change is also a major driver on this side of the continent. So speaking from one of the papers written by one of my very good friends from Cameroon, they identified some certain viruses and bacteria and parasites. They did a accumulation, right, of the various zoonotic disease prioritization has been done across the continent. And zoonotic disease prioritization is done with the US CDC tool. There are other tools, but any country, the most common one is the US, United States Center for Disease Prevention and Control tool, which we use to prioritize zoonotic disease. Because if you want to look at even in your countries, like there are so many zoonotic diseases, but you want to prioritize the ones that are, for control, elimination, and all of that, and also for prevention. So those tools help you to maximize your resources. And that's what most countries did. And then this particular paper also now further reprioritize them based on the commonalities that is seen. So you see rabies again coming up, anthrax, brucellosis, zoonotic influenzas, hemorrhagic fevers like Ebola. We have Rift Valley fever, trypanosomiasis, which is a parasitic infection, zoonotic TB, right? Lassa fever, salmonellosis, and so on and so forth. So now, some of the key drivers of zoonotic disease outbreak is that you have rapidly, growing population in Africa, for example, leading to, encroachment or destruction of human habitats. Because for me now, I just think about, life in the 50s, right? And look at the population of my country. It was less than 50 million. But when you look at our population today, we are over 200 million and counting, right? So we are still rapidly growing. A lot of areas that used to be forests, in fact, some areas were even called forests while I was growing up, and a lot of these areas now have developed. Like I went home, just came back last week, and I looked at, this, and I'm like, wow, this is really, really something that needs to be, looked into, because we are eroding a lot of green areas. We don't even have parks. There was a case in one of the states here in Nigeria where they converted a zoo to an estate, killed all the animals, right? For me, like as someone that is very conscious and, about animal welfare, for me, that was really not acceptable. But yeah, that was done. And these are realities of things that are happening. So in a way, when you look at zoonotic diseases, some of these diseases that affect animals, or some of the things that are rapidly driving, is that the rapid urbanization, we encroaching into animal habitats. And then sometimes we say these animals, diseases are being transmitted. It's because we keep encroaching into this area. So we have to consciously, as populations are growing, we need to consciously also make sure that we have that balance, right? So there's also poor funding of locally led researches. Most of the researches that you find out sometimes, even the ones that get cited the most, are not local researches. There's no enough visibility, for some of the local researches. It's more of like when people from outside bring a lot of money, then that is now, coming up. But no, it shouldn't be actually. So we need to also make sure that, we are paying attention. In fact, the honest truth is that the people that even pay attention to journals, in quotes, that we don't look at as good journals, are people that are not even from this continent. There's a lot of African research out there that people who are not on this side review on a constant basis, right? So we need to pay attention to this particular type of our researches. Sometimes as well, like even maybe some of you from other African countries might attest to this, there might have been no action review. So when there's an outbreak, you have an after action review, similar to what you do in some businesses or, other disciplines, but you do an after action review. So what's the action we took? How best? Was it effective? Did we help? Was it very good? not like you're trying to find faults, not a fault finding mission, but you're trying to identify areas that you should pay more attention to and learn from the outbreak. And like Winston Churchill would say, no outbreak should go to waste. So unfortunately, in some particular outbreaks, there was no review, right? Even for Lassa fever, where I live, there were years where there was no review for the particular outbreak. Meanwhile, these outbreaks were occurring every year. Then also some outbreak lessons went to waste. So in a situation whereby these reviews were done, the lessons just sat down in the books. It was not implemented. And year in, year out, the same recommendations or new things are being done, but nobody is taking action, whether at the level of the technical people or even at the level of the government, right? Sometimes it's more of like, and that's why for me, you can see part of the things I'm doing as a policymaker is to explore the power of storytelling in policy making, because no matter the English you want to speak, you have to be able to communicate this effectively to the politicians who are going to bring out the money to implement public health interventions. So it's very important. Some other aspects is also the lack of institutionalization of best practices. I'm very sure a lot of people on this call, you have relics of COVID lying around. I have thousands of pictures on my phone because anytime I travel, I want to see like what was being done during COVID and what is still being maintained. A lot of those things have actually been dumped, right? You go to the airport, you see some of these things there. It's only when there's an outbreak, right? A scare, then you see them bringing out, oh, where are the thermometers? Oh, where are the scanners? Where are these, right? These are some of the things that also affect. So poor multi-sectoral, multidisciplinary integration. A lot of times, I'm sure most people on this call now from yesterday's session, you now understand the meaning of One Health. Gets yes. So for public health, economic, social impacts of zoonotic diseases that we experience, right? Please, can you hear me? I just want to
Wow,
make
we
sure
can
that we
hear
are
you.
still together. Okay, great. So
Yes, ma'am.
some of the things that we have that I've noticed over the years as well was, you have issues around mobility and mortality year in, year out with these outbreaks, so that, you have people dying, you have people sick, like for example, Lassa fever. Unfortunately, some people will live with partial deafness or complete deafness just from having Lassa fever. That's if they even survive, right? Sometimes, you have people with kidney issues, and it becomes a major concern as well as a complication of this disease. Rather, prevention is better than cure, right? So issues around food insecurity as well is also a major challenge, because when you have outbreaks, right, zoonotic disease outbreaks, you also have issues. It affects food, the value chain. It affects the food chain, and this causes food insecurity. Outbreaks like anthrax can also be used as bioterrorism weapon. I'm sure you know about there was a US, this anthrax, that's they had laced the spores of the anthrax in letters, right? And that also caused a major outbreak. So these are some of the issues. And we know that there are so many other organisms as well that can be used as a bioterrorism weapon. So we need to be able to make sure that we constantly, have a lot of researches ongoing to monitor what we have, right? Especially within our natural spaces. And even now that we kind of have encroached, you might see a increasing trend of this, and we need to continuously do research and find a way to solve these problems. So it could also result to exports or trade or tourism bans, like avian influenza outbreaks. You see issues around egg glut. You see people not even coming. COVID-19, where am I going? I'm going too far. COVID-19, I mean, the whole world was on lockdown. We couldn't do anything. We're wondering if our lives will ever get back to normal. Of course, a lot of things changed. We were not having a lot of Zoom meetings, right? And we're even using Skype at that time. Now, Zoom is like the normal order of the day, So our lives have not remained the same. So, but there were a lot of lockdowns, countries imposing ban on other countries, telling you to do tests and all of that. So this affected our livelihood, and a lot of people, even mentally, that was what killed them. Not even the COVID virus itself, but not even the COVID-19 virus itself, but psychosocial support areas, issues around tourism ban, all of that. A lot of industries were shut down. Countries they're highly dependent on tourism, were greatly affected. So the high cost of control and management, prevention is actually better than cure. I think I've spoken about this a bit. And also financial loss to farmers. Please confirm that you can hear me. I just want to make sure.
We can hear you, Ma.
Okay, great. Because I was seeing, I thought I had run out of data. So animal welfare issues. So like when you have an avian influenza outbreak, the animals will have to be called. If you have some other outbreaks as well, and these are great animal welfare issues, right? So if, there's also that aspect of like, even when the avian influenza outbreak happened in 2006, right? You had issues whereby farmers were to be compensated, but was this done or was this not done? That remains a concern. Some may be received, but not even completely. And in many countries, that's also an issue, right? So testing as well, like in Africa, we majorly depend, apart from some few countries that are able to produce, vaccines for animals or produce for even humans or develop their own diagnostics, right? Most times these things are imported. So issues around vector control, testing, vaccine feasibility is also a huge major issues. And these are the public health, economic, and social impacts of zoonotic diseases. So the One Health approach, I know you've spoken a lot about this. I'm hoping that I won't have to, but just to refresh your minds again, One Health, the 4 C's, you have communication, collaboration, capacity building, right? And it cuts across different sectors. So you have environments, humans, animals, you have planetary health, you have plant health, you have toxicology, so many. And there are also different levels, right? Rural, urban areas, peri-urban areas, regional, global, local level. Then you also have issues around equity and gender. So it's very important that all of these are put into considerations for zoonotic disease. So the far right area, what I was trying to pinpoint from that is that looking at the Africa CDC Epidemic Intelligence Report, you could see some of these zoonotic diseases like dengue, mpox. This is not the most recent one. So Lassa fever, for example, that is currently ongoing, is also not captured. But then what I was just trying to draw, especially for this, is that there's a whole lot of work that also needs to be done, right? Because this report, I'm sure, does not even capture all. Maybe some countries are not reporting, some are reporting. You can see it's not capturing like the current outbreaks from all, and I'm sure every country has a particular outbreak across the African continent that they are currently dealing with, right? Based on whether dry, rainy season, or whatever type of seasons that you have. Some countries like Lesotho even experience winter, right? And South Africa too, at specific times of the year. So depending on whatever, maybe it's food poisoning, whatever, some of these are also zoonotic in origin from contaminated food, water, and all of that. So it's very, very important. One Health looks at that intersection of all this human health, animal health, environmental health, and it's that sweet spot, right? So it's not a one size fits all, it's an all hazard approach. Like you look at it from different angles. And when you protect one, you protect all, right? So it's very important. So I was just trying to bring that out from the continental basis that we need to really do more. So for as young people, there's a lot of work that we need to do, that needs to be done. And why is it important? Looking at youth leadership in prevention and control, 60% of the population of Africa are made up of majorly youths. And even some other reports even tell you that these people are even below 30 years of age, right? So 60%. So we have a very young population. We have a lot of youthful people with creative ideas, right? Unfortunately, like the disease where I also lead the control and prevention of, right, and management, about most of the people affected for Lassa fever in Nigeria are about 21 to 30 years. These are young people with dreams. These are people that have not even explored. They've not even started their career, right? And they are majorly affected. So as young people, this is a major concern for us because this disease actually affects us. There are some other diseases that even affect children under 5. So they've not even discovered who they are, right? And then for some people as well, being affected as youths, these are people that have undergone rigorous training, people with capacity that are ready to explore, to transform their world, right? So these diseases affect us more, and we need to be very, very, and the reason is because when you look at the population that takes a lot of risk, even issues around mining, it's a One Health approach as well that needs to be done, right? But just focusing on zoonotic disease again, right? You will see that a lot of the active population people that maybe will be involved in rice milling, farming, they are majorly young people, right? So if anything is going to happen, control measures and all of that, why should we not be at the forefront of leading interventions that actually affect us as a young people? So a lot of work needs to be done. And we have youths that have creative ideas. Because one thing is, there's sometimes they say you cannot train an old dog new tricks, right? But as a young person, you still want to explore. You're not looking at that, oh, I'm old, I'm this, I'm that. There's that energy to go out there. Like when you look at sports, we are there, there's a lot of energy that we have, a lot of creativity. Like look at the world has not remained the same. And we have adapted, we have evolved, we are moving, we are solving challenges, right? We have found new ways to communicate, creative ways to communicate. Why not we also do this for zoonotic disease prevention and control? So it's very important. I work with for me to closely mentor a young person, I have to find that energy because I'm a busy person on a normal day. So I need to make sure that whoever it is I'm mentoring or trying to help to become a better version of themselves, because they already know what they want to do and where they want to go. I need to make sure that that person is hungry. I look for hunger first. I don't care about you have a first class. You can have a first class and decide and not be hungry. And you could have just crammed your way through school. You don't understand critical thinking. You're not hungry to solve problems. You're not ready to explore uncharted frontiers. So for me, I look for hunger, right? And I believe that this is one thing we also need as leaders, as youth leaders, as people who are ready to transform nations, right? Because I want to believe that people on this call are people, leaders, future leaders of tomorrow. We have presidents on this call. We have world shakers and movers here on this call. By 2050, about 42% of the people making key decisions in the world will be people from Africa, right? The whole migration of people going to Europe and all of that, these are still people that are of African descent, and they're going to be making a lot of these decisions because you have aging populations across other European and some other Asian countries. So it's very important, right, that at this time you also connect with people of like mind. And I believe that's why some of you are also on this in this summit. So great movements, when you look at it globally, whether it has to do with, if you look at the African continent, right, talking about our when we had independence from our colonial masters, it was youths led that movement. Yeah, a Luther continua, right? Victoria Center. So we led that movement as youth, and history shows this, and it's still the same thing that is happening today. It's not that different. So some of the roles that youths can play, right, in these frontiers that we are talking about today is that even though I've said this several, the platforms have evolved, but human beings, we are social beings. We want to make informed decisions. We want the most important information like that's why as scientists we communicate all our big grammars. So we have to break it down to people for them to make the informed decisions, explore the power of storytelling in policy making, in communicating changes, in driving solutions. So it's very important, right, that we have this. And as youths, you can do this through making creative content to drive positive social behavioral change, whether it's reels, right, on Instagram, shorts, on YouTube, skits, stage plays, comedy, Tales by Moonlight. I remember as a child, we watched Tales by Moonlight. And before my own generation, so on TV, now it's social media, but on TV, we have this Tales by Moonlight. I don't know what it's called in other countries, but I just say the way it is. So we will tune into the television and you watch, an elderly person sitting down under the tree and children, at the foods, and then they're talking about the tortoise and this. Oh, I don't want to remember too much, but hey, let's go back to focus. So just trying to talk about that. But before that generation of television, people in the villages and communities, they come together. And that's one thing I love with Africans. We are very communal, even though I know with internet now, we are losing a bit of that. But that's our strength. That's our power as Africans. We live communally. And, before televisions, you had people coming down, like the things that we knew about ourselves, our history, the wars that we fought, the kingdoms that we conquered, the great people of African descent, right, that ruled the world, the Mansa Musas, the rich people, wealth that could not be numbered. These were word of mouth. These were things that people sat down and told. This is our culture. This is our tradition. This is how things are done. This is why we do this. Of course, we've lost some of these things. Fortunately, some have been documented, but we've lost a lot of them, right? You see the holy graphics that people, look at the great pyramids of Egypt. So these things, right? Humans are social beings. We Find a way to communicate. People are still discovering and still going to the different tombs and mummies and uncovering this and that. There is a whole lot, basically, that we need to go back. We need to search within ourselves as Africans. And even if some of these things has been lost in books, trust me, we still have them. We still have memories somewhere in our DNA, in our genes, right? So we need to go back and look for it. And then, of course, coming from the past, because for you to know the present, you have to go back, right, to the past. And that's why no matter what, you have to. I know that TikTok and all these other different platforms try to make it that our attention span is a bit lower, right? And that's making a lot of people, the younger people, dumber. But trust me, you need to go back and read books, history, right? There's nothing new that we're doing. Platforms have just evolved. So find a way to engage yourself in this. And regardless of whatever it is you are doing now, you must be on social media. Even if you are not active, to an extent, from time to time, you have to. Sometimes you even find out that celebrities and people that have grown to an extent, they engage someone specifically just to manage their social media platforms. So we can also use this as youth. And we should do advocacy at different levels of government, truly youth-led organizations. I mean, like this platform, this is one of it, right? As a young person as well, based on the skills and everything that we get, we can also specialize in various fields of public health, right? Beyond public health, whether you are, whatever it is, whatever field you are, whether you're a politician, whether you read Arabic, French, everyone can be involved in different ways. And this will help us to lead the change that we want to see. We also need to do like Ubuntu-led researches. I kind of just put that there, but I'm not even sure if there's anything like that. But just trying to say that we need to do researches, contextual researches that affect us, researches that are led by us as Africans to see how we could be able to drive the change, the more needed change that we need to do. And the reason why I put that as well is because Ubuntu actually means I am because you are, right? So if you're going to be doing any research, you shouldn't do it alone. You should collaborate within your sector, right? And even outside your sector. You need to collaborate with people to solve challenges at, human, animal, environmental interfaces. We also need to create networks, right, that keeps the useful energy going. So sometimes, apologies, I'm having a call and I don't know if that affected my. Please confirm if you can still see my screen.
Yes, ma, we can still see your screen.
Okay, so I just need to get back to the presentation. So I was having a call coming. So yes, so we need to create networks that keep the youthful energy, like this platform that we have, right? I love youth because youths are never afraid to ask why. And I really hope like there's always something that interests you. Like even if you say you are not a person, I don't like to read, I prefer to be on social media, scrolling mindlessly. There's a book for you, there's something that you can read. And that's why I believe that youthful energy needs to be kept, like networks like this that we have, this summit that we're having. Youths are never afraid to ask why. We ask questions, we question why. Like even when you say this is how it has been done, so why are we doing it? Don't be just act dumb and say, okay, this is what we have been doing. So you who said you should not question the status quo, right? And I know that youthful energy helps us to do this. Question why. So looking at some other real life examples, right? I will come to the key points, but what always comes to mind for me with this is that I remember the World Rabies Day we had in 2023, and the theme for that World Rabies Day was all for one health for all. And I remember for the first time, I was super excited. I was in the field in one of the states in Nigeria where we had concurrent vaccinations ongoing for humans and animals, right? It was so beautiful. Like we gave healthcare workers and veterinarians pre-exposure prophylaxis, and we also vaccinating dogs by the side, and we also had our colleagues. It was just a beautiful one, right? So the picture at the top is Louis Pasteur, right? And I started like a joke. Like I started a joke in the beginning. Sorry, the person is still calling, but I'm so sorry about that. I'm using my phone as a hotspot. So joke aside, like for me, I feel like age is just a number, right? So it depends on you. Like if you feel okay, I'm getting old, and then you let your youthful energy go, that's you. But like I told you, Professor Tomori is 80 years old, and he's still one of in fact, he's even more active than most young people that I've seen. So age is just a number. So Yeah, so back to that. Dr. Louis Pasteur, he had developed, the first rabies vaccine. And before now, I know that right now rabies is more endemic in the resource limited settings, it's endemic in most parts of like Asia and Africa. But you see that it was a very huge problem in the West before as well, in Europe. Like it was a huge problem, like, So, but then he discovered that, and even after how many years, a whole lot of years, right? That rabies vaccine has been developed from the 80s. We are still having rabies outbreak now. So you see that it's not even a problem of the solution is not available. It's just that what we call the equity and the availability of these skills. And even when you look at it before in Africa, the difference between our vaccine development efforts and that of the West, the difference was almost at par, right? But currently, the difference is so huge that we just depend on Gavi to give us vaccines that we use to vaccinate kids, but that should not be. So anyways, coming back to, the One Health approach again for the World Rabies Day, like I said, in 2023 that was done. This image is gotten from the Global Alliance for Rabies Control website. The link is also part of the references I have for this slide, which I believe will be shared. So you have vaccination, you have education, surveillance, and even as a young person here, you can fit into any of these. There's also advocacy, there's collaboration, there's diagnosis for people that want to be in the lab, those that want to be policy makers in government like myself. Collaboration across the different sectors, it's very important. And for us, saving one life, it's very, very important. Imagine that you have people dying every minute, right? It's unbelievable, like from rabies, right? Every minute you have people dying, every second as well. Like you have, a zoonotic disease is brewing, about to happen. And after a while, you see this outbreak. So we have a lot of efforts that we need to do. One Health is for everyone. Doesn't matter if you read political science, Arabic, like I said, French, everyone can be involved. And even when you come to field practice itself in your work, you're going to realize that the politician you were ignoring is very important. Whether you are in the international NGO or local NGO space, or even working in government like myself, you realize that these people are very important for sustainability, because even with what happened with the massive funding cut around many NGOs across, the world, right? You will notice that sustainability gaps are already showing the evidence of those things, because it was abrupt. It wasn't a gradual process. You see that it's very massive. So these are key things that let us know that there are so many avenues, whether you are a teacher in the secondary school or primary school or university professor, everyone is involved, right? Everyone is involved. And for most people in the West as well, that probably have some amount of money to spare to support researches in Africa or some other developments, a lot of justification for this is because they know that boundaries, like disease doesn't respect boundaries. Look at what happened in COVID, it shut down, right? An outbreak started somewhere around the world and it moved, and everywhere became shut down. So we realized that if you protect one, you're protecting all. And if you are like, oh, this is a problem of so region, and I'm not ready to share my intellectual knowledge or collaborate or to see how I can be able to solve these problems, these people are going to migrate, right? They're going to migrate to your country. So these are some of the issues. Even within Africa, you have that migration also happening, because skill will also always move, right? People will always move. So no one is coming to save us. That's one of the key messages from this slide. It's very important for us to know that, One Health should not end at the level of the definition, but it should be there in action. We need collective actions and responsibility, and we have youth. 60% of the current African population are youths. And by 2050, 42%, almost 50% will be youths from Africa, leading the change that we want to see globally. So it's very important, very, very important that we understand this early and begin to find locally led solutions. With the resources, we feel limited resource settings. We are not limited. We have an abundance of minerals in Africa. We have an abundance of human capital. If we can harness this together, because I believe there might be a future president or minister of health, or who knows, someone, at whatever, even at international level on this call. It's very important that we understand that Africa is not poor, right? It might seem so, but we are not. We have resources, raw materials, cocoa, many things that we can use and harness to build the Africa that we want, the Africa that we desire, and the Africa that we want. So no one is coming to save us. Now, for people that also have a silos mentality, shake it off, shake it off. No one is coming to take your job. Collaboration is the way forward. It is the new order of public health or the new order of working generally. And you need to embrace this, except you want to be a stagnant water that does not flow, right? And that's, from history stinks. So you need to flow, you need to give and also give to other people and allow other people to give to you. You need to be open-minded to collaborate. So the rule is all or none, right? It's either even when you look at the joint external evaluations that we have, it's an all or none rule. So if human health is moving ahead and animal health and environmental health are not moving ahead, there is no progress, right? It's like you are chasing the curve, you're not solving prevention issues. Instead, you are following after case management. Disease outbreak is occurring, then you pump out money. So we need to find a way. We need to have that resolution to save lives, millions of lives, including our own, right? So the next slide. So some of the actionable recommendations that it's very important. For me, I call this DAB, right? So you need to dream, activate, and become. So what do I mean by that? Number one, find a community, find a problem in your community. Unfortunately, I cannot remember the African leader who stated this or the activist, but I found a very interesting video on Instagram by a Kenyan. I know it's a Kenyan from the accent. I know it's a Kenyan. And the person was like, the unfortunate part is that we send people to school, right? And we don't allow them to identify a problem to solve, then go to school to learn how to solve that problems. Sorry about that again. I know my network must have tripped up a bit. So they go to school to study, but then they come out and then they are looking for jobs. Should they be looking for jobs? No, they should not be looking for jobs. They should not be looking for jobs, right? Identify a community. And even if that was not the order, right? Because for me, it changed my perception of education completely. And that's why I told you everyone should be involved in One Health. You need to find a problem in your community to solve that requires, the entire community to solve that problem. So dream bigger than yourself. Don't just think of I, me kind of thing. Dream bigger, right, than yourself. So find a problem in your community that you need to solve. And for those who perhaps are still in school, then you are lucky. Find a problem in your community to solve, and whatever course that you are taking currently now, it might be mass communication, it might be political science, whatever it might be, use that education to solve that problem. And then that leads me to the second point, right? After finding a problem in your community, activate the raw potential within, because every one of us has a gift, right? And that's why I say collaboration is the way forward. You don't have all the answers. I have a gift that's, something that comes to me naturally that I can do. And other people also have that gift as well, naturally within them. So we need to collaborate together to find the solutions to the problems that we have identified in our community. So you find the problem, so dream bigger than yourself. Then you activate the raw potential that you have within. Go to school or take a course. And that's one thing that COVID has done for us, right? You start at home now. There are so many free courses online. YouTube as well is a whole educational resource, right? For me, I got a new gadget that I'm using right now. My laptop crashed. And all I've been doing is going to Google to find out how to use it because it's a very different interface from what I'm used to. So that's one power that we have as young people, right? So go to school to then solve that problem. Some of you now maybe are done with your maybe BSc, you want to go for masters, or you want to do a PhD. Like for me, I have not done a PhD. And the reason was I really wanted to find something I'm passionate about to solve a problem, right? I later found that video that corroborated my own thinking. But the next step was, after a master's, get a PhD. There's always that thing. But at the end of the day, when you get all those things, is it helping you to solve a problem in the community? Or you're just gathering degrees and saying, I am doctor, this, that. It doesn't make sense. The most important thing is how can you educate? So that's another thing, like going to school. Does the school go through you? And after school, how can you solve your problems? Or you just did lakram lapo? So sometimes you have to re-engineer yourself and change the way you learn or the way you learn, right? Critical thinking, ask, question systems, question structures. Why? Why? Right? In fact, I was on a call and I was, there was something that some
Hello, Ma. Can you hear me? Your network is breaking.
remain, then put the water. So question systems, sincere apologies. I've been getting a call persistently, and the person has just been very persistent. So I'm sure you lost me for a while there, right? So, but I'm still hoping I still have your attention.
Yes.
So basically, find a problem, dream bigger than yourself, because trust me, if you don't have a dream that is bigger than yourself, you would not really be it will not really make a lot of sense to, because you will not be able to get other people involved, because it's just all about you. So don't be selfish. Then I activate the potential within, go to school, take a course to learn and gain skills to solve that identified problem. The last one, which is part of the DAB, become, apply the skills you have learned to recruit and solve the problems in your community. For example, draft a work plan, apply for a grant. Now, there was also during my Mandela Washington Fellowship, or currently, or even on the POMS Plural Rights One Health mentoring scheme that I'm taking, which is sponsored by the International Veterinary Vaccinology Network. We have, there was this video, our coordinator, Margaret Collins, which taking us on one of our leadership development sessions, shared with us how to start a movement, right? So first of all, you yourself have to catch that fire. You have to believe in what it is you are doing. Then after that, you go to speak to somebody, one-on-one advocacy, right? And then before then, you get multiple stakeholders involved, or you speak to key stakeholders. And then you start a campaign from there. And before you know, you start a movement, right? And then for me, I'm always concerned about things that also spans generation. So you're not just looking at 2025, but things that you can build towards. Of course, it starts gradually, but the vision keeps expanding, right? So that's what it should be. So pardon that, I think there's a spelling error there, but so that's basically it, right? I hope it's very insightful. These are some of the references. There's much, much more. I also advise that you read this book by Tom Frieden. Of course, there are other things there, but the formula for better health, how to save millions of lives, including your own. I know I've referenced to a lot of this. So remember that you have the power to make the change you want to see within your area. The change actually begins in your heart, and then begins, it consumes you, and then of course you cannot contain anymore, and you have to share with people. And don't speak with people that are going to kill that dream. Look for people, go on LinkedIn, go online, search people that are within that space that can fan that fire into flame. Because trust me, there's nothing new you want to do that somebody is not already doing. They might just be in a different generation from you, right? So you need to find that. So be local but globally minded, okay? Be local but globally minded. Thank you for listening. And yeah, so that is all. I'm available right now if you would like to take some questions. Yeah.
All right,
Thank you.
amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Yetunde. That was an inspiring section. I've been writing and my book is filled already. Thank you so much, Ma. I already posted in the chat box. If you have questions, you can drop them in the chat box so Dr. Yetunde can attend to them. The session was really packed, from the definition of zoonotic diseases, mentioned how 60% of known human diseases are zoonotic in nature, and 75% of emerging and re-emerging diseases are zoonotic. That's a lot. And the key drivers of zoonotic diseases outbreak resulting from rapidly growing population, leading to encroachment, poor funding of locally led researches, a lot of that. And also the public health, economic, and social impact of zoonotic diseases like food insecurity, morbidity and mortality, the one we saw with COVID-19, bioterrorism, financial loss to farmers, also on the role of youth, this directed towards the youth that play in this, talking about how we should tell stories on our social media handles using TikTok and different platform, advocacy, specialization in various fields of public health and all that. One thing stuck with me when you said, be hungry to solve problems. You have to be hungry to solve problems. And yesterday, Dr. Nancy challenged us. Today, Dr. Yetunde is also challenging us, I would say, to dream bigger than ourselves. Just like saying, cut your coat oversized. So thank you very much, Ma. If there are any questions, I'll be taking them now. I can't see any questions here yet. Okay. Thank you. So there are no questions in the chat box, so I believe everyone is too filled. They don't even know where to start from. You have to go and sleep on this. It's amazing. Thank you so much, Ma. If we don't have any questions, but in case any question comes up, if you're still on the call, we would direct them to you. But because of time, we would have to move on from here. Okay, so thank you very much, Ma, once again. So right now, we would take a quick photograph. We take a quick picture. So please turn on your cameras. Let's see your beautiful faces while we take a quick photograph. You can turn on your cameras now. Yes, please, if you have any questions, you write them in the chat box. Please go ahead and turn on your cameras so we can take a quick photograph. Okay. Joseph, are you still on the call? Let me know when the picture has been taken so we can move further.
Yes, please, you can carry on.
Okay, thank you very much. So, like I said, if you have a question for Dr. Yetunde, you put it in the chat box with your email address. So if we cannot attend to it now, it will be sent to you. So moving on, we'll be moving directly to the next session.
Please, hello? Hello? Hello?
I can hear you.
Please, can we get the presentation slide?
Yes, that will be done later after the whole presentation. Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right. So,
good evening. Good evening. Please, I want to ask question. I'm sorry, please.
Mark, can you drop it in the chat box so we don't take much time on that? Thank you. Okay, so our next speaker, Dr. Joseph Mbutia Kamau, he'll be taking us on the next session. Dr. Joseph are we taking a citation now? Dr. Joseph is a young and ambitious veterinarian currently undergoing his internship with the Kenyan Wildlife Service, which is currently the leading wildlife conservation hubs. This has further strengthened his passion for protecting endangered species and underscored the critical role of veterinarians play in safeguarding biodiversity and ecosystem health. Through his work with complex wildlife systems, Dr. Jacob represents the next generation of One Health leaders, bridging animal health, conservation, and environmental sustainability in Africa. It is my honor to introduce the second speaker for today's session, Dr. Joseph Umbutia. Please join me in warmly welcoming Dr. Joseph. Dr. Joseph, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you, everyone. I hope I'm audible enough. Yeah, if I'm audible, please, you can have some thumbs up in the chat box. If I'm audible.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are, sir.
Okay, thank you. So once again, I'm grateful for this opportunity to be in this, to be part of this amazing summit that we are calling One Health and Sustainability Initiative. And our theme is empowering youth for One Health action in Africa. So yeah, being one of the youths is something so great. And yeah, looking forward to this interactive session. So I am a young wildlife vet, as it's been said in my biodata. And I'll be taking you through a thematic area called empowering youth to safeguard wildlife for One Health. So yeah, if you allow me, I have 30 minutes, so I'll present my presentation, then we can start from there. So I'll just be sharing my screen in a few. Yeah, hope you can see my screen. Can you see my screen? Thumbs up. Okay.
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so my thematic area is empowering youth to safeguard wildlife for One Health action in Africa. So being a young wildlife vet, it's an interesting topic, and yeah, looking forward to interactive session. So yeah, so I had this action of connecting people, animals, environment for a sustainable future. As you know, One Health cuts across different aspects. That's the people, the animals, and the environment at large. So those are my names, Dr. Joseph Udia, and the date of today. So yeah, my first slide. So the first question to understand is what's One Health? So understanding One Health is the first action. And basically, in simple terms, it's a collaborative approach linking human health, animal health, and environmental health. And as you can see the chart there, it has environmental health, animal health, and human health here, all leading to one thing called One Health. So it requires that these systems are interconnected. This means that environmental health can stand on its own, animal health can stand on its own, same case with human health. They all have to work together to ensure that One Health is met. Then essential, what's the role of One Health? Essential for preventing future pandemics and ecological crises, because as we work together, we're able to ensure that all standards are met in all aspects, and that ensure that everything is met. And pandemics such as, let's say, like COVID-19, which happened, will not happen well as having good management practices in all aspects. Then a small code is that healthy wildlife is equals to healthy ecosystems, which is equals to healthy people. So all, as said, that all these aspects work one and all together. And from experience, it's been straightforward that if you have a healthy wildlife setting, the ecosystem is healthy and the people are healthy. So yes, One Health. Yeah. So next slide. So why does wildlife matters in aspect of wildlife in One Health? So basically, in most scenarios, people tend to think of pets, domestic animals, But the question is, why does wildlife matter in this narrative? So Africa, to be one, hosts some of the world's richest biodiversity, from rhinos to elephants, these big mammals, and even to the small mammals. So it's a whole system all through. And wildlife supports tourism economies, food security, and ecosystem balance. So as we aim to having a one aspect, know that wildlife, despite being able to provide the health standards, it still acts as a tourism source, which serves to give economy to the government, to just the country at large. Food security, by ensuring that as the many crops in the system are well maintained and the wildlife still have food to live, to eat, and ecosystem balance, because there are different plants and experiences in the wildlife setting which you can't find in the normal setting. So all sets them large. Then wildlife loss disrupts disease control and climate stability. So I had just this slide where I had this epidemiologic triad where you have the host, the agent, and the environment. So the same setting as it happens in the normal domestic or domestic setting, same case happens in our setting, the wildlife section. That the diseases can always go from any. If environment is conducive, an agent multiplies, and that affects the host. So they all work all together. This is a slide you can see just an idea of what wildlife really acts. So it's a sort of supports biodiversity, habitat, soil formation, and photosynthesis. Then culturally, it's a place you can do recreation, educational, and also aesthetic. Then regulating, it regulates flood control, global climate, water quality, pollination, and all aspects. And then provision, it provides medicine from apple trees and everything. Then raw materials, as in the forest, which also exist. Then energy, water, and genetic resources. So the whole thing is that wildlife supports all these aspects, the global scale, the regional scale, and also in the local scale. So that's why it's important to understand what does wildlife really have an impact in the One Health setting. Then the question is, we already know what the role wildlife plays. Then what are the threats to wildlife? Because understanding this will assist us in knowing then what can we work together as One Health practitioners to ensure that this is met. So one is illegal wildlife trade. Because of the trophies, they have the tusks like of this beautiful elephant here, we have horns, we have skins, and all these other aspects. So some of these things are said to be medicinal, but they don't have a value. So if the illegal wildlife trade continues, we risk a lot, from the bushmeat trade to all those aspects. There are many things which happen in the wildlife setting, which once they cross path to the domestic or to the human side, it's quite intensive. Like, for example, we have like COVID-19 and the effect it had. So we always have to understand these settings. Then the other thing is habitat destruction and urbanization. So we do understand that the population of people is quite increasing every single day. So as this is done, where the wildlife used to stay, we have to cut down the trees and create space for us to stay, the people to stay. And by doing this, we affect the natural setting of the natural setting. So by destroying the habitat, it's a threat because it messes up with what really functions in the wildlife setting. I know it's probably like a need, as it said, but it also has the repercussions which come along with it. The other aspect is climate change is an issue globally, and this has affected the rainfall patterns. We have in more droughts nowadays, flooding, trades, and this whole thing affects what the normal setting, the wildlife section. Then you have the human-wildlife conflict, which happens between people and the wildlife itself. So as we know, when you do urbanization, people stay where the wildlife used to stay. And when wildlife, funny thing with wildlife is, for instance, like elephants, which is why I used this photo here as a background. Elephants have one common path which they follow. So even if they migrate using that route 10 years ago, when they're coming back, they use the same route. So imagine when the next time they're coming and they find that you have planted crops there and everything. So definitely they don't care about what you're doing. They just come and pass through. In such scenarios, people always tend to have a conflict with them, probably decide to put snares, injure them, kill them. But in this aspect, there's that imbalance because of how it used to be initially. The other thing is emerging zoonotic diseases, which I think has been experienced in different aspects. So because of that, mix up between people and the wildlife and everything else. So we have this emerging disease, which currently the percentage is quite currently going up high, because even the bushmeat trade, whatever we eat, whatever we consume, we don't know whatever is going on. So it's a risk. Yeah. So the question is, the next slide is just to show you what really happened. So here we have an elephant with a person here. So this is more human wildlife conflict. So these ellis used to walk through here as they migrate, but you see now there's a homestead here. But ellis will always follow their path. So what will happen in this case? They'll come destroy the homestead of this person, and the next step will be probably to injure or have that conflict. Then there is the illegal wildlife trade of tusks and everything. At least these ones are secured and now they're burnt. But you see, by the loss of all these tusks, we've lost a number of elephants due to this. And then you have habitat destruction. You can see this is a forest which had different wildlife setting and different wildlife animals inside. But by cutting trees, they have to move to a different setting. But by this, you have already messed up with the ecological setting at the moment. And then you have this area where you have a dry setting and a good setting. So this is all about climate change. What are we facing? We currently had this one, but nowadays we are facing more of droughts, which is an impact of climate change. Then in between you have COVID-19. I think everybody in the world tested the impacts of COVID-19 back in 2019. So that is the whole influence of how wildlife can affect and the issues which we currently face. Then the next question is back to what we are talking about, which is us as the youths. Then why youths are critical to One Health in Africa? So using data, it's clear that Africa is the youngest population globally. So there's this study that they said by 2050, 1 in 3 people under 25 will be African. So this tells you that actually we have so many youth in Africa. And then the question is, what are we doing to ensure that One Health is met in the aspects of, let's say, in this setting of wildlife? What can we do to support the wildlife section? Because we are too many youths, and this means that we can make a great impact in the setting currently. So what can we do? Then the question is, then youth are digital innovators. Yeah, youth are very smart. We have access to AI and other aspects of technology. So by this, we can invent good things which can help us in actually ensuring that all these aspects are met through technology advances in drone monitoring and even cameras and everything. Then community influencers. I think, for example, me as a Gen Z in Kenya, we make a lot of noise. So if we can use that voice that we have in a good way and in a positive way, we can always have an impact in the One Health in Africa, in the wildlife sections. So the same case, you can go to the communities, talk to our people, talk to our parents, talk to our family members, and show them the beautiful side of how we can impact all these sides. Then we are the future policy makers and scientists. I'd say we are 1 in 3 people under 25 to 2050 will be African. So this means that in the coming future, we'll be the ones making the policies and we'll be the one doing this research. So this means that we have quite a big part to play in ensuring that this One Health is met in Africa. So this shows us that despite us not having too much, the much knowledge we have, the much influence we have, we can use it for a better purpose. And this comes to energy plus creativity plus technology is equals to powerful change drivers. Yeah, youths, you are very energetic, very creative, and very good in technology. So this means if we can join the 3 things, then you can have you can do a lot of change because you have the 3 aspects in together. So which means if we work together, we have the energy, we have the creativity, and the tech. We just need to put it into a working body together, and then you can have a powerful driving force. Then this other thing is that youths are not future leaders, they're leaders now. We don't have to wait till 2050 to make impacts. We can start as early as now. Because the question is, if we decide to wait till 2050, what damage will have been done in the next 24 years? But if we start today, we might not make 100% advances by 2050, but you'll at least made probably 60 or 80%, which is better. So the thing is that youths are not future leaders, but they are leaders now. So you have to take the mantle as early as today. And then, so if you have any questions, you can always just put them in the chat box with Violet Hour. Yeah, so then what are the examples of youth-led solutions in Africa? So in this case, examples of impact we've done is wildlife monitoring using drones and mobile apps. So currently, like in Kenya, we do have Earth Ranger, we do have other aspects of monitoring. So in this case, you can see this photo here. There's a drone footage, which is able to identify a giraffe, tell you it's a giraffe, the Thompson gazelle, another giraffe, even tells you what age. This is like a calf. Then a grand gazelle and a grand gazelle. So using the technology and the creativity we have, we've been able to come up with such good thing that help us in maneuvering and surveillance. Because as you can imagine, if you have an area of like 90,000 acres and you need to do surveillance, it's quite hard to do it on foot. But if you have drones, you can be able to even do wildlife sensors and count and just monitor. Because in our case, let's say like you want to treat like this giraffe here, you can find a group of like 50 giraffes and it'd be difficult to just spot what's happening. But using AI, you can even have identification numbers for the giraffes. Then you can, as easily as possible, just spot it into a group. How is this being done? By the impact that you have done with technology. So this shows that whatever we are doing is actually making a big impact in the setting we have here. So the other thing is community awareness campaigns. So in this case, the aspect is we have the voice, we talk, we make the campaigns. So if we're able to go talk to the people on ground and just teach them a few things here and there, the effects of poaching, how wildlife is making it impactful and all those aspects. Then coming back to the human health aspects, if we can share the data we have and see the people who stay there, how can they prevent themselves from getting maybe diseases and stuff like that. Same case, and also in the environmental health, what can the people in the communities to do, probably like the way you graze, the way you interact with this wildlife, how can we go all along these ones? So the whole aspect is youth are able to do the community awareness campaigns more energetic and more vibrant, in even better ways, like going to markets, doing presentations here and there, and all those aspects. Then anti-poaching volunteer networks. So we know poaching is quite a big challenge in Africa. And luckily, Kenya in the last 8 years, we've done quite good with no poaching cases. So, but if you can shift the same energy that you're doing here to other countries and see how we can share this data outside there, it could be quite something interesting. So we can even just advise people, see the advantages, and they see that they explain the people what is actually happening, and this can benefit us in a lot of ways. Then sustainable agriculture initiatives. So yeah, for environment, what can we do? So by having good irrigation programs, rotation of grazing and stuff like that, we can actually have a big impact in Africa, which is actually being done by advising people on what they should do with the grazing pattern, the farming patterns, and all those system rotation grazing. The increment advocacy movements, by having a say in what happens, like if there's deforestation, we have a say in it. If there's aspects of flooding, we know how we can assist in probably building gardens and things like that to just manage everything. The other thing is young conservation startups protecting endangered species. So yeah, so we do work together and ensure that all this is being done, like the rhinos, the elephants, the giraffes. But what we do just to ensure that these animals are safe, then we have that aspect of ensure that protecting that these species are done. Some of us even get to become rangers who play part in protecting these animals. So it's all a whole system and just understanding how to maneuver, which use in Africa are actually quite important. Then skills youth need for One Health leadership. As we work along and see everything working, so what skills should youth have to ensure that they have that impact in One Health leadership, especially in widely? One is interdisciplinary collaboration, which has been spoken by the previous speakers and say that you can't do this alone, you need to collaborate. So by working together with different people, different aspects, you're able to bring in the tech, the knowledge, all together and ensure that you have something good that is working. Then you have environmental literacy, understanding how everything works. We are learning. Africans, I think we are more learned. We learn engage on the previous generations. We are more learned, which means that we are way better ahead. So by having this knowledge, you can always incorporate it together and have a good working system. The other is digital and data skill. Yeah, I know when it comes to tech, programming and everything, we are quite good with that. So having those skills help us in understanding this data, predicting the future, what will happen, and actually now helps us in preparing earlier and just being set for anything that happens. Then policy advocacy and communication. As I said, we are very energetic. We talk, make a lot of impact. So using those voices that we have, we can actually make a better impact in ensure that all the conservation work is being done. Then you have research innovation mindsets. We are quite bright, I'd say. As African youth, we are able to invent a few ideas here and there. And using that, we can always see probably like, let's say like a chimpanzee are being trafficked, are being going through bushmeat. What can we do to curb this issue? So using that aspect, you can see like what's the real reason causing this. Then using that, you can always like, okay, how can we control poaching? Probably advocate for more people to understand what's going on and stuff like that. Then the call out is that One Health requires breaking silos between medicine, veterinary science, and medical studies. So we have a lot of knowledge stored somewhere, but unless we go and act on it, it will just be stored in a silo for future use. But if we can use it from now, so we need to break that knowledge, share it out, collaborate with people. Because what you might think is a tough thing on the set might be probably something I've studied tomorrow. Or maybe what you need is something I've missed in the last point. So if we can work all together and share this data, we can actually have a good aspect. So the call out is that One Health requires breaking silos between medicine, veterinary medicine, and then studies. This is just like the aspects of self-management, relationships, analytical management, and leadership. So they all need to work together to ensure that you have something going on. And then barriers facing young conservation leaders. Yeah, we have a lot of dreams, a lot of aspirations, but sometimes you have very many challenges. And as the previous speakers have said, limited funding is a big problem in Africa, but you can always see how to go out of it. The lack of mentorship. Sometimes you lack good people to just guide us on all these things. But I'm happy that with such a meeting like the One Health Summit, it gives us a guiding step that you can see, okay, so and so can guide me in doing this and giving me the spirit to continue working with this thing. So that is something we can, One Health Summit is actually doing to sort out the lack of mentorship and policy exclusion. We do have our ideas and what you want to do, but sometimes having it being done is quite tricky. You might suggest, okay, let's do this, but where it goes, the policy makers are like, nah, we something here and there. So that's a big problem. Then the rural urban opportunity gap. Sometimes moving from the rural area to the urban area is quite an issue. So if we can be able to sort this issue that if you come from the rural area, you can get an opportunity there and work. It can be, but in most scenarios, this is quite a big issue because normally people prefer the urban guys and the rural guys not so much. So, but if you can sort this thing out, it could be something grateful. The limited access to research tools. So we do have a lot of data, a lot of stored data and studies, research papers, but sometimes you have limited access to those papers. Like if you need like reference papers, you need to pay stuff like that. But if you could have a way where you could be able to access all these aspects, it could be a beneficial thing to us as the youth. But a big but there is that these barriers can be transformed into opportunities through partnerships. So the barriers are there, but if we work together, we can ensure that these barriers are turned to opportunities. So yeah, so I know with this cooperation, this good system going, we can always have a way to have it going and working well in this aspect. And then call to action. So for students, I know here we have students, we have young professionals, we have institutions here in this talk. So for students, what do we do? So join conservation clubs. People in these scenarios be able to visit the wildlife section, see what they do, see where you can play a part, have research ideas and stuff like that. Yeah, so have and even share your ideas. This is the aspect of partnerships. Then study the disciplinary courses. If you like courses like which cut across different aspects. So if let's say like you do like engineering, somebody else does human health or wildlife health, you can see, okay, I want to do good monitoring in this animal. What can I use? Okay, somebody from engineering can assist me. So that understanding. Then the other thing is volunteer and wildlife initiatives. If you hear there's some translocations, ear notching treatments, you can always sort those things out and even work together in these aspects. Then for young professionals, what should we do? Advocate for sustainable practices in workplaces. We make our sound being known and what the ideas we want. Then support conservation tech innovations by the use of drones and everything. So using this, we can always have a way of working together. Then partner with local communities. So the community, in most scenarios, find that the communities live together in the wildlife. So they know the wildlife more than we know them. And they're there with the animals more than we, the experts are there. So if you have a good system with them, they'll always be able to advise and tell you, okay, so and so this animal is working in everything else. Then for institutions, what can institutions do? Like the universities, the NGOs, the government, what can we do? So fund youth-led initiatives. Sometimes, as you have said, you have an issue of funding. So, but if you can have policy where you can fund these initiatives and see what the youth have, it could be a great impact. Then integrate One Health into curriculum. If in most scenarios, when like this has already been done in many countries, but I think pushing this into and people understanding the role it plays, it makes it easier to just enact all these laws. Then promote cross-sector collaboration. So different sectors, from the engineering sector to the health sector to the agricultural sector, we need to work together, because working together ensures that everything is done smoothly. And then the next slide is, what is our vision for the future? So my vision for my thought was that if we could have One Health Africa where wildlife thrives, that I know the elephant is safe, the lions are safe, the giraffes are safe, the pollution is doing well, that's a good future. Then ecosystems are protected. From what? From urbanization, from distractions, from climate change, which is actually an issue, but you can only see how to work it out. If this is done, then that's our future, that which we could really enjoy and see. Then zoonotic diseases are minimized. If you could have a robust system of disease surveillance, prophylaxis measures, and even management, it could be a beneficial thing to actually to us. And that's a good future. Then youth drive sustainable innovations, more drones, more surveillance, more just to study the behaviors. So by doing this, it could actually be a good setting for us, and we have that capability. That's what I normally say, we have that capability to do all these aspects. Then the last point is communities prosper in harmony with nature. As you can see, like in this photo, we have people grazing here and we have elephants here. So this is quite a healthy system. So you can have this prosper, people can still graze and wildlife can still enjoy. It's a good system which can actually happen because the community is part of the ecosystem and the ecosystem is part of the community. Then last slide is that, thank you, but last quote is that the health of Africa's future depends on how we protect its wildlife today. Yeah, so that's me. So, but let's stick to this. Even if you forget everything else, don't forget that the health of Africa's future depends on how you protect its wildlife today. So we don't have to start 2050. We can start as early as today and see everything going on well. Yeah, so I'm grateful and thank you for listening.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Joseph. That was an inspiring session. Thank you so much for enlightening us and for sharing your insights. Thank you so much. Good day once again, everyone. And this is still the One Health Summit Africa. And we just ended the second section for today. We'll be moving to the question and answer session. Would appreciate if you can drop your questions with your email address so the answers can be sent to your email, just so we can avoid the waste of time. We'll be moving straight into the next session now. I'll be handing over to Mr. Conrad. Conrad, are you still on the call?
I think I can see a few questions. Probably I can address them in the chat box. So
okay,
the first question is how to interrelate wild to human to domestic animal, most in Africa, most of the present idea. There's a question here on how to control zoonotic diseases in the wildlife by the control or who, because I think it will be very difficult and we can limit the transmission to cattle and humans. Yeah. So what we do in the wildlife section is that we have, let's say, like if you have examples like chimpanzees, we do have we have that close genetic link up with us. So what we normally do, we have security measures like wearing masks, sanitizers, footbaths, and vehicle baths in all settings in the entry levels. Then even the contact we do, we have to ensure that the right people are the ones who interact with these animals. So you have the expertise, you have the knowledge. Not like everybody has to do those access. And in case of outbreak, you sometimes have to close up some areas, just like, and so you have more vehicle baths, limit the number of tourists going to that area, or we like even block it completely, at least monitor for the time being and see how it works. So I know in cattle it's quite easy, but the same case wildlife it happens. But the problem is like our wildlife move up and down in the setting, so it's an issue. But we are able to minimize the impact by having vehicle baths, by security vehicle baths, footbaths, sanitizers here and there. also limiting the people accessing such areas in such scenarios, but and also having the right people to handle this specimen and these animals. So that helps us in managing all these things. Yeah, thank you. I think that's the only question I can see.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Joseph, for taking the time to address the question. And thank you to the audience for engaging. Thank you so much to our viewers on YouTube. I'll be moving on to introduce the next speaker for the next session. In person of Dr. Ashambi Alvin Tani. He is the doctor of veterinary medicine and an animal husbandry specialist from Cameroon with strong practical and industry experience. Dr. Tani serves as the regional coordinator for management for the littoral and southwest regions of Cameroon at NGS Group and is a committed One Health advocate. His dedication to advancing One Health initiatives and mentoring young professionals makes him an inspiration to emerging leaders across Africa. Join me in welcoming Dr. Tani Alvin. He'll be taking us on youth as catalysts for One Health in Africa, turning ideas into action. Dr. Alvin, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Good evening and a special welcome to everybody who is on air and who has taken out the time to follow this program, which is very, very rich and very, very deep for the development of Africa. Please, just to confirm, is everybody getting me?
Yes, sir. Can hear you.
Okay, everybody gets me. I don't know if you can share my screen now. I sent you a very short PowerPoint there. You know, I've been following the program yesterday and today, and it's really been insightful. And I think our audience have really enjoyed the presentations of the various colleagues on this platform. And today I will be taking us through youth as catalyst for One Health in Africa. I think that my colleagues or the people who have spoken before me has thrown a lot on One Health on its own. I couldn't go through this presentation without talking about One Health, but I will not really spend so much time there because I think they have emphasized on that time and time again. But we have to know that One Health is not just a concept, it is a movement. In Africa, where our lives are deeply connected to animals and the environment, we should know this because, you know, we are in a developing world, I should say, because majority of African countries are still far behind, and the methods that we use in approaching human medicine, veterinary medicine, and environmental protection is not really, can I say, top notch as it has to be. So we have to know that in Africa, it's for us. It should be a movement, and I'll be happy if we don't just listen to all what our various speakers have been saying, but if we can put it into practice, because that's the only way we can actually move forward with this concept of One Health. Trust me, if we all don't get into the engagement of taking all what we have said into action, then we'll still remain at the same points. One Health, please, can you go to slide 2, please? I don't think I'll have to repeat that. You know, One Health. We are just talking about humans, animals, and environmental health, all interconnected. That's why, be it the health personnel, the medical doctors, the environmental specialists, we all first have to advise. We all first have to accept that we all are important in preserving our Africa, and we all have to come together to work as one in order that we can achieve various goals. There are a lot of things that a veterinary doctor will bring out that a medical doctor will not know. And there are a lot of things that an environmental specialist will bring out that that a vet doctor will not know that might affect his animals. I remember when I was doing my final year thesis on the seroprevalence of leptospirosis in the southwest region of Cameroon, I had a prevalence of over 66%, which was very alarming. Yes, and it's quite amazing that when I tried to push further and got to some medical doctors, they did not even know what leptospirosis is. And some 2 years later, when I went to have my tooth checked, I got into a discussion with the dentist, and over my discussion, I was shocked to know that she lost her brother to leptospirosis simply because we don't have an idea about the disease. It's not that the disease is so strong that it cannot be treated, but it's just because of lack of knowledge, lack of awareness. That's why this program, I really want to thank those who have organized this program, because it's going to really serve as a means to educate the people on how we approach One Health situations. And us, the youths, are really called to be able to approach this. Could you go to slide 4, please? Slide 4, next. Yeah. How many ways can we, the youths, try to drive change and bring about change using our One Health concept? We youths now have come across a lot of amazing youths like myself, very intelligent, very good with social media, and very good also with app creating. I think I should also call out Vet Connect, on which I was talked to about one app, which I think was to track diseases also. It was a long time ago. I cannot really figure it out. But I think we as youths, we have a lot of innovative ideas in our heads. And I think that instead of us sitting behind TikTok pages creating content just to make people laugh, we can also create content that can actually educate a lot of people. Majority, I can say that more than 50% of our African youths spend at least an hour or two on TikTok these days. We can create a lot of content that educate people on on One Health issues, on how to approach these things. We can also be very innovative by developing apps that can track disease and also serve as disease reporting. And we can also use these apps to track antibiotic use and also to promote sustainable agriculture. I was really taken aback by one of our partners from Belgium who came the other day. And when I explained to him that I am not really a fan of prescribing a lot of antibiotics, he was really amazed because he says majority of the African countries in which he has gone to, we Africans, we are used to prescribing a lot of antibiotics. And he says in Belgium, every vet doctor or medical doctor is tracked. Any antibiotic you prescribe is tracked in the system. And to the extent which if you over prescribe antibiotics, your license can be seized. I think these are some kind of ideas that we have to bring it in Africa. And also our national orders of vet doctors and even medical doctors have to be very much stronger to advocate for things like this. Because until we are strong, we will not be able to rightfully tackle these One Health issues, because everybody will be pulling on the curtains on, well, I want to make my gains. I'm a young man. I want to, get rich and make money and all that. But I stand to say that, yeah, we are all young. We all dream of making a lot of money, and being innovative through creating apps to track diseases can actually get you a lot of money. Yeah. And we also have to try to engage in community development, because we have a lot of local communities where we all grew up in, where there is really lack of awareness on some diseases that go from animal to man, and also some poor uses of agricultural products which damage the soil. And when it damages the soil like this, it'll it'll bring about the fact that we'll produce less. And we know that Africa, but I can say majority of us in Africa, we depend on agriculture to sustain us, agriculture to make us rich. Agriculture will make a lot of African countries to emerge. So if we as youths don't take these ideas, engage with our local communities, educate them on the right uses of a lot of, be it antibiotics, be it fertilizers, be it drugs in our human pharmacies, we will not go far. So we have to take this as a personal commitment, everybody on this platform, because I can see we are over 80 of us, and we have to take it as a pledge for us to be able to take our One Health dream forward. We can also collaborate and partner with a lot of their NGOs, their government organizations, and we have communities, mayors, and all those things that we can partner with them, such that we can help and share different One Health ideas. You know, we can also do advocacy, in which we can advocate for policies and resources to support One Health, amplifying our voices of marginalized communities. This is where our social media platform comes in: Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. We can try to educate and train others, thereby in which we'll develop and participate in educational programs. This program we are having now is a very great educational program for us, that we are building our capacities and sharing knowledge on One Health principles and practices. Please go to the next page. Some of the challenges that I could pick out, is true that we have already talked about it, that we face a lot, is antimicrobial, antibiotic resistance. Yeah, and I just think that I should throw short light on it. Yeah, we as youths will face a lot of challenges, like limited access to diagnostics labs. We are in Africa, and majority of our countries are still developing. I said earlier that we don't have the tools to be able to bring out a lot of diagnostics. And we also have the problem of overuse of antibiotics in humans and in animals. Majority of us, someone has a headache, oh, he's already taking a steroidal anti-inflammatory or a non-steroidal. He does not even understand, but he knows that it's a painkiller. But he does not understand that maybe the headache might be due to just stress. But we just abuse the usage of drugs, and sometimes we don't even use antibiotics to the end. We just take for 2 days. Yeah, we feel fine. It's okay. This, we are developing resistance, and also we have a lot of lack of awareness on the responsible or use of these drugs. Some of the corrective actions that we can use is to create awareness campaigns, wherein we'll communicate actually and explain to people the various uses of these antibiotics, how it can actually be used, especially in veterinary medicines, where the use of drugs, antibiotics, is really abused. We can also promote the use of probiotics, like probiotic or phage therapy, which is also very important. Yesterday, I heard one of our speakers educated us very well on biosecurity, hygiene, which is very important. You know, growing up, they always taught us that prevention is better than cure, and hygiene is the best way to prevent the use of many of these antibiotics. We also have to educate on the reduced use of a lot of fertilizers in our farms, different types of fertilizers without even knowing how it affects the soil composition. And this draws me to that's where you see human veterinary medicine and environmental health has to work in collaboration, because I think the best manure we could use is the dung from, be it poultry, be it pig farming, be it um, even cattle farming. This is the best. And this helps us to conserve the texture of our soil and always make it productive. Please go to the next slide. Let's talk a little bit about zoonotic diseases and how it also impedes us. Some of the problems that we face in most of our African countries is weak surveillance. Weak surveillance, we are not able to track the outbreak of diseases, and we have limited resources when we have outbreaks. We only depend on foreign aid when we already find ourselves in problems. And we most especially our cultural practices in majority of African countries increases transmission risk. Yeah, because we are too close to our animals, but without knowing the risk that they possess and without knowing how to protect ourselves and these animals. Some of the ideas that we youths can use to overcome this is simply education, communication, which is very vital for us all. And not only communicating, but appropriate communication. Because majority of the time we find ourselves, yeah, we stand in a rural community, we start speaking the biggest grammar, start telling them how this and that has happened without understanding, trying to ask ourselves, how do these people communicate? In what language? What language can I use that even the person who is most illiterate can understand? We could use practical knowledge, trying to explain things in a very practical form. We could use the least language, break it down such that these people should understand very well, and most especially the importance of communication is that the people which we are communicating to should understand. We should be able to draw up prevention strategies. We have already talked about biosecurity a lot. We have also talked about vaccination programs, correct vaccination programs. And we have also talked on sensitization. People should be aware that having cats in the house, they can have toxoplasmosis. Eating uncooked goats, which is not controlled, they can have toxoplasmosis. Leptospirosis can be gotten from cattle. We should educate our herdsmen and the people who work in slaughterhouses that usage of personal protective equipment can help us to prevent a lot of these diseases. Vaccinating our animals, for those who have poultry, a lot of people did not know that Newcastle disease is zoonotic. Yeah, it's true that the zoonosis of new Newcastle disease is not too pronounced, but I bet you, if we are negligent in some years to come, we will see that the Newcastle disease that we always neglect will become a threat to us. With this, I think that I have, and joining with the voice of the other presenters, I think I've been able to go through all what we youths can use as tools, and our voice can be heard, and we can turn our ideas into action. Please go to the last slide, the last but one slide. We have the ideas, we have the energy, we have the network. Please, this, like I said at the start of this presentation, this should not only be a place where we network, but we should put all these into action. I believe if we all take that dedication to get into action, our Africa is going to become a better place. And if our environment is healthy, our animals are healthy, of course we all will be healthy and will live long to see the world develop and our children's children grow to be responsible people. Thank you all very much for your keen attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Alvin. That was an amazing session. A call to action, even by Dr. Tai, emphasizing on the need for youth to use their ideas and their energy to put out something there. Thank you very much for emphasizing on that again. Without further ado, we'll be moving to the next session. I'll be handing over to Jeffrey. Mr. Jeffrey, you can take over from here. Jeffrey, can you hear me? And if you have any questions, you can send them to the chat box with your email. That will be addressed via email due to lack of time.
Am I being heard?
Yes, yes, yes.
All right, thank you. So we'll be introducing our next speaker, which is Belinda Omino. So I'll be reading the citation of our dear speaker. Belinda Omino is a microbiologist and research technologist specializing in animal health and biotechnology. At CARO, she contributes to regional surveillance through a mobile-based application system and vaccine development for zoonotic and transboundary diseases, including Rift Valley fever and the PPRO virus. Her passion for science extends from the lab to the community through teaching One Health lessons to students, empowering women in ASA areas by advocating for climate-smart agricultural practices, inspire and mentor high school girls to pursue careers in science. She is an advocate for gender-responsive policies and youth-led One Health action through the World Food Forum. We are honored to have you, Ma, on this call. Belinda Omino. The floor is yours, Ma. Thank you so much.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, Ma, we can hear you.
And are you able to see my screen?
Yes, Ma, we can also see your screen.
All right, so thank you, Jeffrey, for the introduction. My name is Belinda Omino. Apart from the wonderful presentation that Jeffrey has just given, I have also started my master's program in Global One Health from the Institute of Tropical Medicine. And also allow me to send my apologies. I will not be able to switch on my camera because I've been up and about traveling. So I'm not really presentable. So I will start with my first presentation, which is on climate action and environmental health. What can African youths do? So the previous speakers had already introduced One Health, what One Health is, the One Health concept, the One Health framework. So I will just highlight through this presentation the climate action and environmental health. What are the factors that contribute to the spread of diseases from one species to another? What and how climate influences the spread of diseases, and how the environment plays a part in the spread of diseases. What is the problem? So as we currently know, climate change is a crisis globally, and Africa is the one affected the most. So we really do not engage in a lot of activities that contribute to climate change, but apparently because of various factors, including funding and also other socio ecological factors, we are the most affected in climate change. So how does climate change affect our environment, and how do diseases come in terms of disease spread and climate change? So Africa faces an escalating increase in heat, and if you've observed lately, we are experiencing rainfall patterns that are not consistent. We are experiencing different seasons at different times. Here in Kenya, we usually expect that in January to end of February, it's a dry season, and then you proceed. But due to climate change, we are not seeing that. When we are expecting rains, the rains are not there, and when we really are not expecting the rains, that's the time the rains are coming. So those are some of the effects of climate change. It also brings about drought, because water bodies are drying up because of excessive heat. So especially for pastoral communities, they're largely affected, because these are the communities that have the great intersections between humans and animals, because they have large herds of animals as a way of as their way of life. And because they are mostly in arid and semi-arid areas, they are predominantly affected by climate change. But that does not mean that us who are not pastoralists, we are not affected by climate change. Climate change or change in temperatures can increase the spread of mosquitoes. So diseases that are usually spread by mosquitoes or other insects increase due to climate change, because when there's high temperature, mosquitoes can find proper breeding grounds, and thus increases spread of diseases. So as the first speaker said, zoonotic diseases originate from animals, and the risk worsens by the changes of disruption. So when when animals no longer have a proper or a conducive environment for them to breed, they will shift. And probably the will shift, that change in environment or change in ecosystem might affect us as humans, and might also affect our animal health. So we have a very vulnerable ecosystem. And in Africa, our health systems are also very vulnerable. And so we need to start thinking as young people, what are we going to do to mitigate some of these problems? How are we collectively going to embrace the climate change crisis? And what should we do? So how us as youth, how do we come in and mitigate the climate change crisis, and stop the spread of the diseases? So the One Health, as I know you have already been introduced to the One Health concept, but I'll just go through it briefly. It integrates the human health, animal health, and environment health into a single proactive framework, which builds resilience from the ground up. So as we all know that we all like to work in silos. As a doctor, you just want to work as a doctor, and as a veterinary officer, you prefer to work as a veterinary officer or in your group of vets. And also as an environmentalist or as a researcher, you would prefer to work by yourself or in your own environmental space. But the One Health concept or the One Health framework embraces the three disciplines. So the three disciplines come together in one table and say, okay, there is a disease, it's being spread from human and animals, and this disease is affected by climate or changes in temperature. What can we do collectively as people from these three disciplines? What can we do collectively to mitigate this problem? So with this in mind, the Africa CDC in 2025 launched a joint One Health zoonotic disease and climate strategy in July 2025 in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. And this One Health strategy launched two pivotal strategies, and one is the One Health Zoonotic Disease Prevention and Control Strategy, which is from 2025 to 2030, and the Africa CDC Strategic Framework on Climate Change and Health from 2025 to 2029. So this framework mark a unified and cross-sectional approach to tackling the interlinked challenges of zoonotic diseases and climate change. So basically, this framework highlights how zoonotic diseases are affected by the changes in climate and temperature. And I am assuming by now we all know what these zoonotic diseases mean. These are just diseases that can be transmitted from one species to another, like a disease that can be transmitted from animals to human beings. So an example of a zoonotic disease that is also affected by climate or changes in temperature is Rift Valley fever, which is spread from mosquitoes to human beings. And as I'd said earlier, changes in climate or changes in temperatures can influence the movement of mosquitoes from one location to another, meaning that increases the chances of us getting diseases. Another example of zoonotic disease is the Lyme disease, which is spread from ticks to animals and to human beings. So those are the two examples of zoonotic diseases that I can highlight. And in that conference in 2025, Dr. Huyam Sali, who is the director of the EU IBA, so EU IBA, sorry? Okay, I'll just continue. So EU IBA stands for the Inter-African Bureau for Animal Resources. So in that conference, he highlighted that African resilience really depends on protecting health as one. So if you want to mitigate zoonotic diseases and the effects they have on us, human beings and animals, we really need to come together collectively as one unit to mitigate the problem of climate change. So let me just highlight the what climate smart One Health is and how it promotes eco-sustainability. So climate change addresses all dimensions, as I had said: agriculture, soil health, human diseases, and it also just shows how all these factors are interconnected. As we had seen, I want to give an example of Ghana. Ghana has developed a climate smart One Health framework, and this framework integrates agricultural sustainability, environmental integrity, and also addresses human-animal ecosystem to the climate change impact. It combines One Health with climate smart agriculture, utilizing system thinking and also incorporation of digital tools to enhance sectors like food security, improve pest management, and also reduce zoonotic risks. So this framework mainly its core component lies on productivity, adaptation, and mitigation. So I will really not go into a deep dive on the Ghana's One Health framework, but if you're interested, I can share a link that highlights everything that the Climate Smart One Health framework in Ghana talks about, and how Ghana is actually pioneering the climate smart One Health. So what Climate Smart One Health does is it allows you to be innovative and have predictive tools that we can monitor diseases, especially before a pandemic. So usually before we have a pandemic, there are certain ecological factors that happen behind the scenes that we really do not know of. So as human beings or as people in the planet, we we out of the blues, we hear in the news there's a pandemic, but really before a pandemic, there's some certain things that happened beforehand that led to a pandemic. But if we incorporate technology into One Health, we can be able to predict some of these diseases early so that we prevent some of this pandemic, which we all know can be very fatal, as we also in COVID-19. COVID-19 is also a good example to explain zoonotic diseases, because COVID-19 was acquired from bats to human beings, and that is how it spread, because it's airborne. So as youths, what can we do? How can we jump in and mitigate One Health, and how can we just collectively solve the climate change crisis so that we prevent a spillover of diseases from our environment? So Africa is the continent with the youngest age bracket. So 60% of young people are under 60 in Africa, meaning we have the voice, we have the numbers, and we can collectively rise up as a continent to mitigate climate change. Because as I had said earlier, we are really not, we contribute less to climate change globally, but we are the ones who are mostly affected. And because we have a 60% ratio of individuals in Africa are young people, we can actually just have a movement. Let me put it like a movement in quotes, where we all come together as a continent and mitigate climate change and reduce diseases, because when we reduce diseases, that means it's a healthy ecosystem, and healthy ecosystem means healthy environment, and a healthy environment means that our agriculture and food systems are working, our health systems are also secure. So when we empower these youths with knowledge, with tools that we need, because as I had said, we really need to incorporate digital technologies into One Health. But not everyone can access internet in Africa, that's one. Not everyone has the knowledge or has the skills to innovate. So increased capacity building amongst the youth is very important. So as we want to move forward, I would encourage that we have more of this youth gatherings where we can be able to educate each other, we can be able to build each other's capacity, we can be able to create awareness on climate change and how diseases are being transmitted, or there's an increased disease transmission due to climate change. So what can African youth do? So we can advocate and influence. So we can be champions in our own community. I usually take myself as an example. Because as a young scientist who really is still growing in her career, you really don't have to have a lot to start impacting change. So for example, I teach One Health in my community, and it's just in the it's in the schools that is in my neighborhood. So every 2 days a week, I go teach the children on One Health, the importance of deforestation, because deforestation is one of the contributors of climate change. So I teach the young children on how to mitigate climate change. So you don't package it as climate change, but you highlight the environmental factors that can influence climate change, like deforestation. So when we do this from a young age, we can be able to raise young champions. And even as youth, we are still young. So the more we are knowledgeable on climate change and One Health diseases, the more we can be able to, advocate and influence and use also social media to get the message out there. Because to be honest, not everyone knows that what zoonotic disease is. So when we have increased awareness in our communities, we can be able to collectively mitigate the climate change crisis. So citizen science also involves involving the community in the aspect of climate change and One Health. So it's really important to know from the community what really are the problems or the challenges they are facing in terms of climate change. Like for example, if you go to the pastoral communities, it's important to understand what are some of the factors they are facing as a community, because community A has different challenges to community B. So I cannot present a solution to community A, and that is with a problem that is not theirs. So we really need to understand the different factors that contribute to disease transmission in the context of the different communities. So sustainable agriculture, so climate, as I had said earlier, climate smart agriculture could also be a tool of reducing disease transmission, especially in our environment, and also protect our biodiversity. Because when we do not conserve our biodiversity, we increase the risk of disease transmission. Digital mobilization, as I had said, we are youths, we are young people, we are all over social media, and we can use our platforms not only to entertain ourselves, but we can use this as a tool to create change and have impact not only to ourselves but also to our communities at large. So what are some of the success stories that we have in our African continent? So in Kenya, there is a group called the Jijenge Youth. Jijenge is a Swahili word that means build yourself. So this group deploys climate smart farming practices that also reduce vector-borne disease risk and also strengthens food security. And through these diseases, there's a reduction in vectors in this community, and actually there's been a decrease in the diseases that are being transmitted. I can share some of these stories with you if anyone is interested, but because of time, I'll just highlight them shortly. And another, in Nigeria, the One Health and Eco Sustainability Initiative, this initiative is also a good way of driving change, because as we are logged on here, we are more than 50 people. We are learning about climate change, we are learning about One Health, we are learning about climate smart One Health. So we are reaching out to people in our community worldwide, because we have logged in countrywide. So this initiative is one good way of illustrating and bringing youths together and creating change in One Health. So in South Africa, they also have a group called the Cape Nature, and this group basically focuses on restoring wetlands to improve water quality and also reduce flood risk and protect biodiversity. When we protect our biodiversity in our environment, we reduce the risk of diseases. So what are the tools that youths can use for tools and resources that youths can use for youth engagement? So we can tap into the different programs and different fellowships that we have around. A good example is the Africa CDC, which has structured trainings once in a while. So as youths, we are on different social media platforms. We can all just follow the African CDC and look out for the various opportunities they have on One Health. They usually have fellowships, they usually have training programs, they usually have community engagement programs, because and through these programs, we can be able to expose ourselves to a deeper understanding of One Health, and we can create a ripple effect in our community by taking the knowledge back and teaching one another and empowering one another. Another example is the Claim Health Africa. So Claim Health Africa serves as a virtual hub where expertise are shared. So it's a hub where we have human health expertise like doctors, we have veterinary expertise, and we also have environmental experts. Researchers are also a part of that community. And its intention is to build capacity for African health and climate communities, institutions, and negotiators to understand and integrate climate change into policy, socioeconomic planning, and programming. And the advantage of this, how can I call it? Is it a hub? Yes. The advantage of this hub is that it's online, so you can be able to tap in from wherever you are, and it's a good opportunity for you to learn from anywhere, and also learn from people who you cannot access physically. Also, the last example is NGO and government partnerships. So through our communities, through our county governments, we can be able to partner with them and bring out the One Health agenda clearly to our communities. So what are the challenges that we are facing in terms of as youths to drive the One Health agenda? Funding. We all know that we have a crisis of funding globally because there's a change, we are experiencing a change in times, a change in tides. So funding is a gap, because when you go out to our communities, we need funds. These are activities that need money, and when you are not heavily funded, administering some of these things might be a challenge. Another thing is institutional silos. A lot of these fields or disciplines prefer working on their own. Doctors will work on their own space. Veterinary people will also work in their own space. Researchers also work in their own space, but they do not have a platform where they come together and share ideas and say, okay, this is the problem. This is how I can come in as a doctor. This is how I can come in as a researcher. This is how I can come in as a veterinary person. So we are all working in individual disciplines, but if we come together and have the spirit of Ubuntu, we can actually mitigate the One Health challenge. There's also policy fragmentation in that we have very many researchers that are doing very good work, but we find that their research ends at publication. Or if they don't end at publication, they can create very good policies. And once they create these good policies, they stack them up on the shelf and nothing is done about them. So there's that policy, the research to policy fragmentation, where our research is not really being interpreted to the communities that they were intended to. Policies are very beautiful on paper, but on the ground, nothing is really happening. So we really need to come out as youth and, we really need to come out as youth and bring the policy agenda forward, so that some of these things that we are recommending in research can actually be implemented in our community. So what are the opportunities that we can seize? Digital tools or digital innovation is one way youths can heavily utilize, through creating awareness, through creating innovative tools that can help in disease surveillance, through tools that can also just reduce disease spread, and also alignment with the African 2063 agenda that integrates or the framework that makes a unified cross-sectional approach. So when we are tackling the One Health problem, we do not just have one discipline on the table. All the disciplines are involved. And when we do this collectively, we will actually achieve greater things. So the growing global momentum around climate commitment and youth leadership. So we find that in a lot of spaces or in a lot of organizations, youths are not being given that opportunity to be at the forefront of highlighting some of these challenges. And when we do not empower the youth, our future is at stake, because we are the future. So we really need to seize this opportunity to advocate that we should be given more opportunities so that we can drive change from from an early age. So together as youth in Africa, we can protect our health, we can protect our future, and we can protect our planet. And the time to act is now. The time to act is here. Thank you, and thank you for your time, and thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you. That was an amazing session, I must say. I learned the word Ubuntu today. He said we should have the spirit of Ubuntu. Thank you so much, Ma. Every session has been amazing, I must say, from discussions about zoonosis to us learning about wildlife conservation and the role of veterinarians, and also conversations around climate action. We've learned a lot today. Thank you so much. And it's been eye-opening. It's been so necessary. You can clearly see that the One Health is just not just a big term we use. It's real, it's connected, and it affects every single one of us. So now we'll be moving straight into something more interactive and engaging. We are transitioning into our panel session. We have 3 panelists for today. And please, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat box with your emails. We'll address them promptly. I'll be introducing the panelists for today, starting with Dr. Shedrack TAC Akpem. So, Dr. Shedrack is a veterinarian, social entrepreneur, and One Health advocate with over 8 years of experience advancing animal health, digital innovation, and sustainable development across Africa. He's the founder and CEO of VetConnect Limited, a digital animal health platform expanding access to veterinary services for livestock farmers and pet owners. With a vision to provide animal health coverage to 5 million Africans by 2030. His work sits at the intersection of animal health, food systems, youth empowerment, and digital transformation, contributing to stronger and more resilient One Health systems. He has led agribusiness innovation programs supporting rural farmers, mentored over 30,000 youths in digital and leadership skills, and driven initiatives that strengthens livelihood, food security, and community resilience. Dr. Shedrack is a Mandela Washington Fellow, MasterCard Fast Fellow, and a World Food Prize Foundation Top Agri-Food Pioneer. Recognized for his contributions to transforming animal health, agriculture, and sustainable development in Africa. Dr. Shedrack, please, if you're on the call, say hi. Dr. Shedrack, can you hear me? Okay, I think he's having a network problem. I'll be moving on to introduce the second panelist, Dr. Akambi Hakim Hawabolanle. She's a veterinarian and One Health communication advocate, committed to advancing antimicrobial resistance awareness, animal health, and community engagement. She works as a project assistant at Livestock Management Resources and serves as a field veterinarian on the combating antimicrobial resistance in Africa through data science projects in partnership with International Foundation Against Infectious Disease in Nigeria. She holds a Master's of Public Health degree from Nile University of Nigeria, Abuja, and is currently undertaking a One Health option course at the University of Global Health Equity, supported by the MasterCard Foundation. Her experience spans veterinary practice, digital health communication, and community engagement. Dr. Bolanle is passionate about strengthening One Health systems through advocacy, communication, and youth engagement across Africa. Dr. Bolanle, let's know if you're on the call. Can you say hi?
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, ma. Welcome.
Thank you.
Moving on to the last panelist, but not the least, Prince Will Igbojinweku, sorry if I didn't pronounce that right, is a Nigerian medical student, public health advocate, and youth leader, advancing action at the intersection of antimicrobial resistance, tuberculosis, and climate health. He serves in the Directorate of Antimicrobial Resistance of the Nigerian Medical Students Association, contributing to national advocacy and youth mobilization on responsible antimicrobial use, and is a member of the British Society for Antimicrobial Chemotherapy. He is the founder of youth-led initiatives, including Guardians of Tomorrow, Children, Mothers, and Communities Against AMR, winner of the 2025 AMR Changemakers competition. His work focusing on community engagement, health education, and storytelling to strengthen awareness and prevention of infectious diseases and environmental health risk. Prince Will is passionate about empowering youth, young people to lead grassroots solutions and drive sustainable change in One Health across Africa. Prince Will, please let us know if you're on the call. Say hi.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome, sir. Thanks for joining us. So we are going to be kickstarting the panel session immediately. Dr. Shedrak, are you on the call now?
Yes, I am. Hello. Sorry, I stepped out briefly.
Okay, welcome back, sir.
Thank you.
All right, so I'll be starting this panel session immediately. To set the stage, I would like to start with a broad perspective. This is to all the moderators. In 1 minute, in your view, what does the future of One Health in Africa look like? And what role will young professionals play in shaping that future? Dr. Shedrak.
Okay. Thank you so much, moderator, and good evening, colleagues. My thoughts around this is that because it is a no-brainer that young people are, in effect, especially on the African continent, the youngest who you'll find across the globe, whether by omission or commission, or actively or passively, we are going to end up in these spaces. So the future of One Health for me is if an informed generation is sustained, meaning we keep doing what we are doing, then we are now going to consciously build a generation of young people who understands that there's more to be achieved in the world of collaboration than competition. Those are my thoughts.
Thank you very much, sir. We are to sustain an informed generation. That's remarkable. Dr. Bolanle, can you share your thoughts?
Okay, can you confirm that you can hear me?
Yes, ma, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. So for me, the future of One Health in Africa is the one that is locally led, community rooted, and digitally amplified, because I believe that for too long, Solutions to health challenges on this our part of the continent have been designed elsewhere, and I believe it has been imported in the minds of Africans. So what I see emerging and what genuinely excites me is the generation of young Africans who are not waiting for permission, just like what Dr. Yetunde said. So we are going to be naming our problems in our own language through the One Health approach and framing solutions through our own lens and using every platform available to mobilize action. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ma. That was an amazing insight. You're talking about locally led initiatives, community rooted, and digitally amplified. Amazing. So, Prince Will, can you please share your thoughts on this?
All right, please confirm you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, so from me, the future of One Health in Africa will not be theoretical. Instead, I believe it will be operational. Now, for a long time, we know that One Health has been maybe living in just panels, policy documents, and declarations. We'll say human health goes there, animal health goes there, environment somewhere else. And then at the end, we'll say they are all connected. But we see that in Africa, that these connections are not just academic, they're actually daily. Flooding affects malaria patterns, livestock antibiotic use affects resistance in humans, deforestation, in fact, shifts disease ecology, bringing us in close proximity with some viral diseases, as we've seen in Ebola and Lassa fever. So for me, the future of One Health here will be driven by necessity and not trend, from awareness to infrastructure, with behavioral science being the core of future One Health policies. Thank you.
That's an amazing insight. Thank you very much, Prince Will. I would like for you to also follow up on this. Many young people want to enter One Health, but they don't know where to start. What practical steps would you recommend for positioning themselves for opportunities and leadership in this field? I'll be starting with you, Mr. Prince Will.
Okay, sorry, please, can you repeat the question again? I didn't get you.
Okay, I said many young people want to enter One Health, but they don't know where to start. So what practical steps would you recommend for positioning themselves for opportunities and leadership in this field?
All right. For me, I think the most significant barrier here that young Africans may face in One Health is structural credibility. You know, after the years pulled from USAID and other publicly funded programs, that's United States AIDS and the rest, we sort of had like a shortfall of funds in public health space, and several programs were affected. I don't know how many youth here registered for the yearly youth program as well. That was also cut short. So for me, I think one of our biggest barriers should be recording everything we do. That is sort of like documenting our impact made. So for me, I think practical skills that young people would want to pick up to break so sort of like invade this space will be include public speaking, proper communication, the way you communicate technical, particularly in One Health field. There are a lot of technical jargons here and there that could bore the average Nigerian, could bore the average African. So sort of like communicating in a way that your audience will be able to understand you is practically key here. So I think that is one skill that every youth here should have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I'll be moving straight to this first section, innovation and career creation, directed to Dr. Akpen Teresi Shedrack. Dr. Shedrack, please confirm you can hear me.
Loud and clear.
Okay. You have built Vet Connect and led several youth-driven innovations and digital transformation initiatives. From your experience, what are the biggest opportunities currently available for young Africans to build careers and create solutions within the One Health space?
Yes, thank you again, Emma. I would say first and foremost, the sheer power of technology has never presented this amount of opportunities as we have today. But in itself, if wrongly deployed, will not do so much for us. So one of the panelists has already spoken about context. We need to frame technology with context as far as Africa is concerned. So I happened to join in a session today that was speaking around artificial intelligence and the smallholder farmers. And the question was, is this just mere hype or there's really impact? And from the insights that came from that, one thing that stood out clearly is the way a lot of us young people are deploying technology to solve problems. We're doing it more like pet projects that we're excited about without putting the end user in context. So as young people, let us first admit that we are in a generation that has never been witnessed before. We have too much information that has ever existed. We have the resources to deploy. So you must define innovation in your own context. So it could be as basic as what the previous speaker said in terms of educating your immediate community on what they should do differently, or telling them about the challenges of the environment and how it impacts them. It could be leveraging AI to be able to translate different One Health communications in a way that suits children. It could be doing the deep tech thing where you're building models that help in prediction and the likes. So that context part is very, very, very important. Another thing we must also pay attention to is this. I know that most times when we talk about innovation, we want to think about something very sophisticated. Problem solving doesn't always have to come in lines of code or structured in a way that only a few persons can relate. Because remember, the conversation around One Health is not necessarily for ourselves. It's for the bigger population. It's for the bigger society. So when you go and you're speaking to a farmer and trying to educate them as to why they need to be able to do certain things, it's not for you. It's so that what the farmer is producing does not affect the larger society. The same thing applies to any other person in the entire ecosystem, and even colleagues to colleagues. You're speaking to a human medic or an environmentalist. How is the message relating? So whenever we want to deploy, especially when we want to leverage technology, context must be what will guide us. Because without context, we'll just be adopting solutions, hook, line, sinker, that do not have practical application. So it ends up sounding beautiful and sophisticated, but not applying. And we see this happen a lot with how technologies fail across the continent, because we are an emerging continent, right? Mobile adoption is still not where it should be. Internet penetration still not where it should be compared to the West. So the way we would deploy must always build or carry context in a way that the end user finds practical application. It's until we do that that we can say that we have succeeded. So my key word is context, regardless of the solution or technology we're looking to deploy.
Thank you so much, sir. That was amazing. I would like to follow up with this question about when a youth is trying to go into the One Health space, how do they position themselves for opportunities?
Okay, I'm sure that's to me too.
Yes, sir. What are the practical steps you recommend for them to position themselves?
Okay, I mean, when it comes to positioning yourself for opportunities, there's no cast in stone model that you're going to pick, but there are certain guidelines. And it's more like going through a process of exploration to find out an opportunity that exists and how you can leverage it. So for those of us on this call who are passionate about One Health and are asking, how can they find their angle? I've listened to a lot of speakers here. Some of them are lecturers, who are teaching in the classroom, who are lecturing in the classroom, and are also deploying knowledge in the One Health field. I have listened to, some who are civil servants, some researchers who are also working in the One Health field. I've seen those who are running platforms where they provide education around One Health, carry out interventions still in the One Health field. So you must first find out where your passion is. Are you someone who gets excited when there's an opportunity to be able to share knowledge? Is it around developing solutions to problems that you find excitement? Is it around driving advocacy? Is it around leveraging digital tools to be able to solve One Health related problems? You must look at the general spectrum first on where your interest lies. Then you go on to validate. This interest that I have, is there practical application for it? Because like I said previously, you can be passionate about something, but if there's no practical expression or application for what you are passionate about, it carries no consequence. So think about this. Imagine being very proficient in typewriting in today's world. No matter how passionate you are about typewriting, it carries no relevance. So you must find what you're passionate about and ensure that that passion has practical application. Then you now find the audience. Who are you looking to engage in this capacity? Are you going to be engaging your local communities, young people, policymakers, politicians? You must be clear on that. And then you develop an approach. But as young people, I need to say this. No matter how big that vision you have in your mind about what you want to do is, you must have the humility to learn to start small. Every big idea that we are seeing today in this world started as a very small process, because that size allows you to manage your expectations. You are able to test the model. You're able to validate your process before taking it forward. So once you are now able to validate at that level, then you now go on to now expand on it. But another complementary part, which is where I will stop for now, that you must also pay attention to building, is this: partnerships. We must learn the science and act of collaboration at a very early age. I know a lot of speakers have talked about working in silos. It is not doing us any good when we can bring together our forces and do more together, but instead we end up working against each other or duplicating solutions. So before you deploy that beautiful solution in your head, is any other person doing it? Are there opportunities to improve on? Are there opportunities to collaborate? It is very important for you to also have that at the back of your mind as you build forward. So this would be the framework that I would suggest. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. That was really insightful. Learn to start small and always collaborate. Thank you very much, sir. So moving on to the next segment, I'll be handing over to my co-moderator, Mr. Jeffrey Awowede. Are you on the call? Jeffrey, if you are speaking, we can't hear you. The network is breaking.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Okay. I think Jeffrey has some network issues. Okay. We'll be moving on to the next segment on communication, influence, and systems change. Transitioning to Dr. Akambi Bolanle. Dr. Bolanle, let me know if you are still on the call.
Yes, I am on the call.
Hello,
Okay,
can you hear me?
ma. Okay, we can hear you now, Jeffrey.
Okay, thank you very much. I had a bit of network issue. So now we're transitioning to Dr. Bolanle Akambi. So thank you so much, Dr. Shedrack, for highlighting innovation and career pathways in One Health. Dr. Bolanle, innovation alone is not enough.
Okay, I can't hear you, Jeffrey.
I think his network is bad. Okay. while we wait for him to have his network checked. So Dr. Bolanle.
Hello. I think you hear me, you guys.
Yes.
I have been raising my hand, I think, for a while, and I have been. I was just trying to ask a question, and I don't know if you can see.
Can you please drop the question in the chat box? The panel section is being interrupted currently, so we'll just pick it from there, please, sir. Thank you very much. Dr. Bolanle, sorry for that little problem. So we said innovation alone is not enough if people do not understand or adopt solutions. From your experience in One Health communication, how can young professionals use communication and storytelling as tools to drive impact and change the future of One Health? Dr. Bolanle, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you so much for that question. So Dr. Shedrack has shown us how to build innovation, and I'm about to talk about how we make sure it actually works. And this actually requires communication. And permit me to also bring in system thinking and designing with people rather than designing for these people. So I always believe that science without communication is just data collecting. It's dust. And communication without science thinking is just noise that actually misses the real problem. And we all know that One Health sits at the intersection of the human health, the animal health, and environmental health, which means that it is very complex. In fact, in my class, they call One Health issues wicked problems. So the greatest challenge we face is not the lack of the innovation, is not the lack of the knowledge itself, but it is the gap in translation of this knowledge and this innovation that we know. We know sometimes we believe that we know what the problems are. We know many solutions. But if a community in rural Nigeria does not understand why their livestock antibiotics are connected to, let's say, drug-resistant infection in their children, then the knowledge is basically very useless. This is where young communicators like us become very essential. Communication for me is not just a soft skill in One Health, it is a strategic intervention. When a young person tells like a compelling story about zoonotic disease outbreak, through maybe, let's say, short video, through maybe Instagram Reels, this kind of thing goes viral in their local community, and they have done something that even a technical report, a published paper could never do. So it helps to even change behaviors. So that's why communication is very necessary. So I want to push us a bit further, because even when we have excellent communication, it will fail if the systems around it is broken. And this is where something I recently learned, I'm trying to introduce it to people as wide and far as I know. This is where health system thinkings become essential. So system thinking actually helps us to stop looking at the problems in isolation and start seeing this problem as a web of relationship, feedback loops, and even leverage points that holds these problems in check. So why do communities continue to use antibiotics inappropriately, even after they know that, even after we've communicated awareness campaigns? If you know, we have World Antimicrobial Awareness Week every year, November. Everybody raise their campaign, communicate it, and say it. It doesn't still work. We're still having the silent pandemic until date. This is because the communication intervention that is going to help this thing was designed without the understanding at the primary level. So there's communication gap without understanding the primary care level and the cultural trust placed in the certain drug sellers. So those are system factors. Because if you do not see the systems, your solution will keep on failing. Young people in One Health need to develop the habit of asking, what are the feedback loops here? Who are the actors? What are the incentives, if there are? Where is the bottleneck? The kind of thinking that transforms a communicator into a system change agent. So my practical advice would be learn to translate, learn to communicate complexity into clarity. Learn who the audience is before you decide what to say or before you provide solution. Yes, a policymaker needs data and economic framing, but a market woman needs a story that she can relate to, a story she recognizes. A teenager needs something that she can share with her colleagues, like, oh, why did they tell us to stop doing this thing? They need relatable stories. The message is the same, but the packaging of the way you communicate it must change. If you must use radios, use it. If you must use local language, don't start speaking Queen's English. If you must use social media, I know your social media audience, you have to communicate in a way that they follow what you're saying. Then you can use community drama. There's something that I enjoy, like people acting out the way they feel. It will help you to know the problem, then you can come up with solutions, whatever reaches what these people would do. So for me, we need to incorporate communication with health systems thinking. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ma. That was an insightful perspective talking about how we package the information. We should know our audience before we give this information so they can understand what we are trying to say. Thank you very much, Ma. So as a follow-up question, I would like to ask, beyond technical careers, what opportunities exist for young people in areas like communication, advocacy, and community engagement within the One Health ecosystem?
Okay, thank you so much, because I think this question is something I feel so strongly about, because I'm also a young person. I'm still trying to find my feet. Yes, I'm a veterinarian, but I want to see what I can do beyond injecting and diagnosis and prevention and all that. So I would say many young people wrongly believe that unless they have these medical degrees, there's no place for them in One Health. But that is not true. Driving from the force that has been moving me since 2017, when I started my One Health journey, I have realized that the One Health ecosystem desperately needs science communicators, documentary filmmakers, journalists, policy advocates, social media strategists, behavioral change specialists, community health educators, graphic designers who can help visualize data, podcast creators who can make epidemiology accessible. We also need legal partners. We also need people who are good with finance. They are not, these are not just peripheral roles, they are roles that are very critical in the One Health ecosystem. So as a youth, I want to introduce a concept that I believe it is deeply underutilized in the African health space, which is called biodesign. So biodesign is a human-centered, need-driven process for developing health innovation, and it can be milked with One Health innovations. The idea is very simple, but it's very radical. So you start with the need of what you want to do, not the solution. Like, yeah, you might look at the community and think that what they need is awareness on zoonotic disease. Or maybe maybe what they need is not that. Maybe what they need is to have a better water and sanitation hygiene. And if you do that, you can curb zoonotic disease. You can be someone that work in that aspect. So you can observe the real environment where the problem occurs, understand the user and the community, the farmer, the mother, the family before you decide you want to build anything around the One Health space. So I would say that most health solutions designed for Africans, we in Africans actually fail not because the science is wrong, but because the designing, the way we think is actually different. So what are the career paths that could be open? Their innovation, like I envy what Dr. Shedrack is doing, is really thinking of the innovative paths. So you could be, as a young person, you could be a One Health innovation designer. You could be in the line of a One Health person who helps to find needs, because, oh God, needs statement is the hardest thing to do. You need to we need more One Health researchers who can help find needs of what is happening. Then we need, in the One Health space, we need people who are technology driven, people who can use technology, who can use AI to do a lot of things. And you don't need to be an engineer to do all this. So as One Health young people, you could create biodesign teams which are deliberately multidisciplinary. You can have social scientists, you can have communicators, you can work with clinicians. You can be a One Health person who is community liaison, or you can be the business person. I know most medical people are not really business inclined, but you could start thinking of a career in One Health business path. So this is One Health innovation. This is the only way it can be done, right? And there are other ways, opportunities that exist in NGOs, international health organizations. For me, I know many people like to say they want to work with WHO, they want to work with FAO, they want to work with World Animal Health Organization, but there are so many organizations that are not so like out there, but they're doing a lot of things around needs assessment, around One Health. I could give some example. We have Partners in Health. We have let me mention places. Yeah, there's Vet Connect. There are so many innovation-driven organizations that are not like yet in the global eye, but they're really doing a lot of things around One Health and really making waves. So I think young people can also create their own platforms, just like the one that we're doing. We're using this platform we're using at the One Health Summit. You could create platforms or a social media page that you could share ideas that translate One Health issues for young Africans in both advocacy tool and even a career launch pad. I would say the space for opportunities are wide open. I would want to use my own just a brief experience of myself. I'm a veterinarian, but aside being a veterinarian, I love, I won't say I love talking. I love to communicate. I love communication. So because I love communication, the first after university, when I see applications around communication, I apply for it, but I make it clear that I'm a veterinarian. I would like to grow there, but I want to build my communication skills. And I intend for a place where they were looking for a communications person. It's called One Health Lessons. If you want to check them out, you can check them out. And I built myself, and I've grown across the the ladder of communication. I joined Toastmasters to amplify my public speaking skills. And from there, I built my networking skills. Like they call me the president of networking. It never goes wrong with me. Like I built networking skills and I started looking for opportunities that I could use my networking skills. Like I even started a small series on my LinkedIn just for networking. Like I could reach out to someone, invite them to for my LinkedIn, and if you like them and you want to talk to them, I could create a collaboration for both of you. So it's not something that it's not it's beyond my professional career, but it's something that I have developed. I would say I've built on. So the space is wide open. You can choose a niche. You don't need to wait for that job opportunity that says, oh, we're looking for a One Health communicator. But I believe that you can actually build this yourself. To wrap this up, I would say that as a young person, you need to start thinking health systems thinking. You need to start thinking biodesign in One Health. And health system thinking is just seeing health as an interconnected web where a change in one part ripples through everything else. And biodesign, a structured process for creating health solutions by starting with a deep observation of what is happening, whether in the human needs, in the animal needs, or in the ecosystem before any technology is even considered. Thank you. Over to you, the moderator.
Thank you very much, Ma. That was an insightful perspective talking about biodesign and leveraging on any opportunity to learn and grow. Thank you very much, Ma. And moving on to the next segment on youth leadership, advocacy, and emerging career paths. Transitioning to Prince Will. Prince Will, your work in antimicrobial resistance advocacy and youth-led community initiatives demonstrates the power of youth leadership. From your perspective, what unique strengths do young people bring to advancing One Health, particularly in areas like AMR, climate health, and public health awareness? Mr. Princeville, can you hear me?
Yes, please confirm you can hear me.
I can hear you, sir.
All right. Lovely evening, everyone. At least it's evening for where I'm at. When I think about young people, what young people uniquely bring to One Health, usually the first one that could come to my mind is our youthful energy, how tech savvy we are, particularly in this informational era. But in truth, the one particular unique strength I believe that youth have is proximity to the problem, not just physical proximity, behavioral proximity. Now, for youth, we are not just encountering antimicrobial resistance as some sort of distant policy issue. We are seeing it in how medicines are usually bought in over the counter, usually in small kiosks. Right now, as I am in this session now, you could just give me hand me over 1,000 naira, and I will walk to a small caravan here. I could get like at least 4 different classes of antibiotics, penicillins, tetracyclines. I could get all of them over the counter without doctor's prescription, without any indication for these antibiotics. Just with my money, I've gotten those drugs. So you see that we are deep inside this behavioral pattern, and this proximity to the issues, what I believe is our greatest strength. So we could also see our classmates say things like take antibiotics like just like painkillers. We're also observing how the economic pressure, the convenience, and misinformation shape our daily decisions. Because like the last speaker said, we have to really take into account the economic rational decision. Because these people do not just take antibiotics like candy for no reason. There's something driving this decision. And unless we account for this drivers, we cannot actually solve this problem of antimicrobial resistance. I remember the program we held with South Center International, which is an international body that funds youth-led organizations. I happened to win the grant for the Directorate of Antimicrobial Resistance, NIMSA. And I remember one of our interactions with school students, secondary school students, she asked, if I feel better, why should I drug that is remaining antibiotics? And the question was not out of ignorance. It was a rational decision. She was actually just reasoning, okay, the money I'll use to buy extra drugs, why don't I keep this one since I'm feeling better? So you see that some of these ill-informed decisions that people make is actually economically guided. So and you see that the majority of these, their logic are usually shaped by their lived experience. So you must take into account this lived experience. And this is where I believe youth leadership play a role, because our proximity, we know ourselves. If I ask a question now, how many of us here have taken I've ever stopped anti-malaria drugs on the second day, particularly the ACT combination? Many of us here will raise a hand, including me. I remember when I was much younger, when it reached the second day, you will notice, all of us notice that symptoms for malaria will reside. So they even though they are forcing us to take the third dose, which is the complete dose as prescribed by the doctor, we will say no because we are feeling better. Because back then I didn't know, at least I didn't appreciate why I needed to complete this dose. So because we know this is what's happening, the other people might not be aware this is what's happening. Because we know the behavioral problems that are happening, because we are in physical proximity to this issue, I believe that youths are understand the logic, basically because we're inside. Take example, inside the climate health, for example, the same thing applies. The flooding is not just some research team for many of us. It actually disrupts our schools. Case example, myself. I'm a fifth year medical student. I'm supposed to have graduated since far back as 2022. But what happened? COVID-19 happened. Each year, Bayelsa experiences flood. So with each of the flood, they extend my program by a maximum of 5 months. And medicine is not a kind of course where you could sort of condense some posting. You must go through required posting. So each holiday you're taking, each abnormal holiday you're taking automatically extends your duration. So each of these things, we experience it ourselves. And you, like our elder wants to say, experience is the best teacher. Because we've experienced these things ourselves, we are best in the position to explain it in ways that we can understand, we can relate. That what many of us term as peer-to-peer learning, and that's critical. That is one of our superpower, particularly in communicating difficult or distant policy issues, particularly the One Health space. Many of our panelists have already explained that One Health is sort of complex when you talk about environmental health, animal health, human health. How do these things connect to each other? Many people and average people will not understand the interconnectedness of these issues. So it is our job as youths, as people closest to this problem, to explain it to our peers, to our friends. They will give us a more regard, a much more listening ear than if someone older is coming to explain it using their own context. So I believe that this proximity allows us to translate One Health across cultural lines. Since we do not just communicate science, we interpret it, we contextualize it, and we make it local. So this, I believe, is this I believe is our unique strength in One Health, and the importance, and reiterates the importance of youth leadership in One Health. So thank you very much.
Oh, amazing, amazing. Thank you very much, Mr. Prince Will. I'll be moving straight to a follow-up questions. The fact that you have successfully built youth-driven initiatives, what advice will you give to young people who want to move from their participants to becoming leaders and innovators in One Health?
Oh, this is a very excellent question. For me, the shift from participant to leader was quite uncomfortable, and it's going to be uncomfortable. It happened when I realized event was not the same as being accountable for an outcome. Your capacity, your understanding of the issue you want to also build up the experience to take, but all lined out with an outcome. So the hello.
Yes.
All right. So I said, sorry, you said?
No, you were breaking, but we can hear you now.
Okay. Please, where did you lose me? The second question, right?
Yes.
Okay. I said for me, the shift from participant to leader to being a leader was actually very uncomfortable. And I'll tell you the truth, it's actually very, because it was a long ride. It happened when I realized attending webinars and volunteering at events was not the same as being accountable for an outcome. Okay, so it actually happened when I asked myself a question, and the question was phrased like this: if this problem continues in my community, can I honestly say that I try to change it? So if you look at the way this question is actually phrased, this question sort of like creates your own personal responsibility, a cross that you must carry. And I also noted that leadership in One Health does not begin with the title. No, it's usually a slow, painful process. It begins with ownership of a specific local problem. Like the first panelist said, he said that you may have big ideas, but the goal, or the actual goal, is to actually start small. Start from one local problem, one that you can address, one that you can measure, a measurable outcome. And so for me, this when I decided that antimicrobial misuse in my own environment was something I would actively challenge, my approach shifted. So I stopped asking how to join conversations and I started creating this conversation myself. Right now in my school, everybody knows me as AMR. They don't even call me by my name Prince again. They call me AMR. Where is AMR? I remember when we were having, because right now we're actually doing our internal medicine rotation. And we came across a patient that had tuberculosis, multi-drug resistant tuberculosis. As soon as the lecturer mentioned, our consultant mentioned, and many of you must know him, Professor Ogoina. He was one that was giving an award for monkeypox. As soon as he mentioned multi-drug resistant tuberculosis, all my classmates just turned and looked at me because they knew they were talking about antimicrobial resistance there. So you see that I managed to create a problem. I identified one problem that I could tackle and continually keep on engaging my peers on that same problem. This I said that this is the problem that I know I can change, educating my peers on what antimicrobial resistance is. Because I noticed that my peers, which are 500 level medical students, do not know little about antimicrobial resistance. How is it possible that our future prescribers will know little about antimicrobial resistance? So just imagine what will happen if we go out into the world not knowing what antimicrobial resistance is. This was the problem I identified, and this was the problem I decided to challenge and actively take on. So my advice to young people is actually practical. Start where the problem is visible to you. Design one small intervention, no matter how small it is. Don't worry, you can expand on this later on. Measure something, even if it's very simple, particularly if you want to seek for funding. No funding. I don't know, many of you that are Nigerians here will know that right now the NCDC is actually organizing a program, sort of like a grant opportunity. And majority of these grants, there's something we refer to as smart objectives. It must be this objective must be measurable. It must be achievable, it must be time bound. So you must be able to identify one problem and measure that particular problem, even if it's very simple. And lastly, you must share what you've learned publicly. Like last speaker said, she actively networks. She posts on her LinkedIn. You must do that because you can be doing something very incredible in one but if you are doing it in an isolated environment, no one will know. And individuals who the Nigeria here will say, my helpers, your helpers will not be able to locate it to amplify what you are doing. So you must learn how to share what you've learned publicly. So to round up, leadership grows from documented impacts and not from perfect planning. And importantly, do not romanticize readiness. You will really feel ready. Growth comes from responsibility and not comfort. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Principal. Moving on to a closing remark from the panelists, starting with Dr. Shedrack. In one sentence, what advice would you give to a young person listening today who wants to build a meaningful and impactful career in One Health?
So I would say, think about the end user. And in this case, think about that audience that you're looking to serve. That's where the entire story is. And that's why we say in design thinking that the person you're building for is the one that holds the answers to the questions you have. And when we master the discipline of right questions, especially as people who want to make impact, we're always on the path where we are self-discovering the best way to serve. So as you want to make a career of yourself in the One Health space, focus on the discipline of right questions, engage the right audience, and let them guide you as the basis upon which you're going to build on. And pay attention to trends. The world is evolving. Things are changing. Don't stay stuck. Have an open mindset. It doesn't matter what that sweet idea is in your head. Be open and flexible that when superior realities or knowledge presents itself, you'll be willing to adopt accordingly. So thank you so much for the opportunity. I'll be dropping off now because I have another conflicting engagement now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. We deeply appreciate your insights. Moving on to Dr. Bolanle, can you please share your final thoughts?
Okay, for me, I would like to say that for every young vet that is just starting now, I would tell you to tell yourself to make a bold prediction that you can be part of the change. You can be part of the careers in One Health. You can be part of people that are turning One Health data storytelling into simpler terms. You can be part of people resolving complex surveillance issues. you can be part of the African health, One Health ecosystem, someone that is driving change, someone that is driving impact. So just to conclude, I would say that you should, as a young person, you should find a problem that breaks your heart, learn everything about it, be passionate about it, then use every tool at your disposal to turn your voice, your pen, your phone to make sure that people who need to know about this One Health issues actually know about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bolanle. Thank you so much. Moving on to Prince Will. Please share your final thoughts.
All right, for me, I'll keep it short. To the young medical students out there, to my peers, as you can see, I'm very young, quite young, possibly the youngest here. I would advise we choose one problem that disturbs us deeply, that shall disturb you deeply. And I would also advise that you stay with it long enough to become genuinely competent at solving it. So that's my advice to everyone here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much to all our panelists. Thank you for joining. Thank you for all the insightful words and encouragement. Thank you so much to all our participants, our speakers, everyone who joined the call today, from yesterday to today. It has been amazing from one session to the other. It has been mind-blowing. So to draw a close to the summit, I'll be handing over to the Executive Director, the person of Dr. Jacob Ondo, with a closing remark. Dr. Jacob, over to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Ella, for that wonderful moderation, and thanks to our panelists. Please, can you confirm if you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. So, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are joining us from. I want to once again thank you so much for being a part of this summit. These last 2 days have been nothing short of an insight, more than 6 hours of learning, of rigorous learning, and receiving inspiration from senior professionals within the One Health ecosystem. I want to sincerely appreciate all our speakers for day one and day two for honoring our invitation. Want to sincerely appreciate our panelists day one and day two for honoring our invitation and the wonderful delivery within these 2 days. Especially, we are grateful to the Trinity Challenge for sending in their goodwill message. We appreciate Dr. Kiki Okwe or Oluwalore of One Health and Development Initiative for her goodwill message as well. Want to appreciate all partners to this summit, Vet Connect Limited, Vet Bridge Network, Cameroon One Health Access Network, International Veterinary Student Association Nigeria, Nigerian Veterinary Medical Student Association, and Nigerian Medical Student Association. This organization came together, and with the leadership of One Health and Development and Eco-Sustainability Initiative, we have been able to put up this summit together. It's been a wonderful time working together with all these organizations. And this again highlights that collaboration is key. We had, like I said yesterday, we had over 1,000 registered participants. Of course, some have joined on YouTube, and we also appreciate those who have joined on YouTube. And of course, moving forward, the recordings of these sessions will be available for those who registered through the registration link. We'll be communicating you more, and the slide presentations for speakers that give their consent will be sharing with you in due course. And for us at One Health and Eco Sustainability Initiative, this is just the beginning for us. more and more programs will be coming up. So stay glued to our social media platforms, and we have amazing programs that will be coming up, because beyond the conversations, we want to see how we pick up a lot of initiative that will empower more young people to take action. So just make sure you stay glued to our social media handles. And of course, we are open for collaboration and partnership. So if you love what we are doing and you want to be part of, we've shared mail in the chat box. Feel free to reach out to us to share such an idea, and we'll see how we can come in, or we see how we can collaborate. Of course, if you have inquiries, do well to also reach out to us and via mail, and we'll be able to respond to you. Of course, organizing this summit wasn't so easy. It came with a lot of challenges as well. Please bear with us. Of course, there were some hitches along the way. Please bear with us. This is the first edition, and we believe that subsequent editions there will be a lot of improvement that will be made. So thank you so much. We've heard a lot in this last 2 days, and we are looking forward that we are not here just to get information, that we don't end up just getting information, that we are able to mobilize ourselves to take action, that we are able to, at our corner, start something, join initiatives that are already doing something, or see how in your little way you can contribute to One Health. And if everyone that has participated from yesterday and today takes action, we can only imagine what the African continent, where it will be with regards to solving our complex health challenges. We had people join across over 40 countries, and imagine if everyone takes action in their country, in their communities, what would become of us all. So once again, thank you so much for being a part of this summit, and we look forward to more engagement from you. Thank you so much, and thanks to the organizing team. You all have been amazing. Our team from One Health and Eco Sustainability Initiative, our team members from Vet Connect Limited, from Vet Bridge Network, Cameroon One Health Access Network, Nigerian Veterinary Medical Students Association, International Veterinary Student Association Nigeria, and Nigerian Medical Student Association. You all have been amazing. It's been amazing working with this wonderful team. Thank you, participants. Do have a wonderful day. Thank you. Over to you, Ella.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jacob. As we come to the end of this summit, I just want to say thank you to everyone. Thank you to the participants, our partners, everyone that was involved in organizing this summit. These past sessions have reminded us that human health, animal health, and environmental health are deeply connected. And this summit was not just about learning, as it has been mentioned by Dr. Jacob. It is about awakening responsibility. So let's not just end here. Let's take what we've learned and turn it into action in our communities and in our professions. Thank you to all the speakers, the organizers, and every participant who stayed engaged up to this moment. Together, we are not just discussing change, we are driving it. We are not just the leaders of tomorrow, but we are the leaders of now. So thank you all, and do have a good night rest. God bless.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Please, when you make your posts on social media, you can feel free to tag One Health and Eco Sustainability Initiative. We'll be glad to repost your post. If you want to share what you learned in the course of these days, you can share and tag us, and we'll be glad to repost, amplify your message. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
All right, so all presentation will be shared via mail.